Sleep matters. The freedom that chains. Imagine standing on a wide-open road that stretches as far as your eyes can see. No walls, no signs, no directions. Complete freedom. You take a step forward, and for a moment, it feels exhilarating. The idea that you can go anywhere, do anything, become anyone. But then, something strange begins to happen. The choices multiply endlessly in front of you. Left, right, straight, backward, 1,000 forks at every step. Suddenly, freedom no longer feels like a gift. It feels like a trap you cannot escape. There is a paradox inside freedom that we rarely talk about. The more options you have, the heavier the burden becomes. True freedom demands decisions at every turn. Each decision carries the weight of what you are leaving behind. Every choice creates 1,000 roads not taken, and somewhere in the back of your mind, those lost possibilities start to haunt you. Did I choose correctly? What if another road would have made me happier? Was I supposed to go left instead of right? Freedom begins as a wide horizon, but slowly turns into an invisible prison of doubts. You might think that having all the possibilities in the world would make you unstoppable, but often it makes you paralyzed. The fear of making the wrong move grows with the number of moves you can make. That is why so many people cling to routines, systems, and even rigid rules. These structures, although they look like cages from the outside, actually bring a sense of peace. They remove the endless burden of choosing. They take away the crushing pressure of the unknown. In a strange way, limits can be liberating. Think about the times you felt happiest. Were you standing in the middle of endless choices, or were you deeply committed to one thing, one path, one purpose? True joy often comes when we give up some of our options and surrender to something bigger than ourselves. When you choose a path wholeheartedly, when you close off other possibilities, you are not chaining yourself. You are freeing yourself from the exhausting need to second-guess. Yet society teaches us to worship freedom in its purest form. We chase it relentlessly. We are told that happiness lies in more options, more flexibility, more openness. But nobody tells us about the dark side. Freedom, if left unchecked, does not just liberate. It isolates. It confuses. It weighs you down. The endless demand to invent yourself over and over again can leave you feeling hollow inside. How do you know who you are if you can be anything at any moment? There is a quiet rebellion in choosing structure over chaos, in saying no to endless options and yes to commitment. It might look like limitation from the outside, but on the inside, it feels like peace. It feels like clarity. It feels like breathing again after being underwater for too long. Imagine an artist standing before a blank canvas with every color in the world at their disposal. For hours they hesitate because the choices are endless. But the moment they pick one palette, the moment they decide on one emotion to paint, their hands move with power and confidence. Limitation did not imprison them. It set their creativity free. In relationships, too, we see the same truth. People often keep their options open, thinking it protects their heart. But endless options make it impossible to fully invest, to fully trust, to fully love. Only when you close the door on all the other possibilities does the real beauty of connection unfold. Commitment looks like a chain from the outside, but it feels like flight from within. You might wonder, how do you find the right balance? How do you honor the gift of freedom without letting it turn into a burden? The secret lies in conscious choice. Freedom is not about having endless possibilities at every moment. It is about being free enough to choose your limitations wisely. It is about setting boundaries that honor your values and deepen your purpose. It is about saying no to noise so you can say yes to meaning. Picture this. You are standing again on that wide-open road, but this time you carry a compass in your hand. Not a map filled with endless roads, but a simple compass that points to your true north. You are free, but you are also guided. You can walk without fear because you know where you are headed. The road is still open, but your heart is anchored. Freedom without direction is a silent chain that tightens with every step. But freedom with purpose is a key that unlocks something far greater than choice. It unlocks meaning. It unlocks joy. It unlocks life itself. In the end, the paradox is simple but powerful. Real freedom is not found in doing anything you want. It is found in choosing what matters most and giving yourself fully to it. It is not the number of roads you can take that makes you free. It is the courage to walk one road with your whole heart. The pleasure that punishes. Picture this. You walk into a room filled with the soft glow of golden lights. Music hums gently in the background. A tray of desserts sits on the table. Each one looks more delicious than the last. Chocolate glistens under the warm lights. Creamy layers seem to invite you closer. The air smells sweet and comforting. It feels like heaven calling you to stay a little longer. You smile and reach out. You pick the richest dessert you can find. It melts in your mouth and fills your senses with joy. For a moment, everything is perfect. Now imagine that same sweetness turning against you. Imagine waking up later with a heavy feeling in your body. Your stomach aches. Your mind feels foggy. The pleasure you chase so eagerly has become a quiet punishment you did not see coming. You wonder how something that felt so right could leave you feeling so wrong. You tell yourself you will be careful next time. Yet the memory of the sweetness still pulls at you. It still whispers promises in your ear. This is the silent trap hidden in pleasure. It feels good in the moment. It feels like the right choice, because it rewards you instantly. The mind is wired to seek immediate rewards. The body leans into comfort without question. But hidden inside some pleasures is a cost that is too quiet to notice at first. It waits patiently. It lets you enjoy the high. Then it reveals its price when you have already said yes. The pleasure that punishes does not always look obvious. It wears different faces. It can be the comfort of staying in bed instead of facing the day. It can be the excitement of spending money on something you do not truly need. It can be the warmth of a familiar habit you know is not good for you but feels safer than the unknown. Each time you choose it, you are rewarded with a momentary sense of relief. Each time you say yes, you feel like you are treating yourself kindly. And yet, somewhere deeper inside, something quietly tightens. Something important starts to weaken. It is easy to fall into the pattern because the punishment is delayed. It does not show itself while the pleasure dances before you. It waits until you have lost momentum. It waits until the consequences have built up enough to feel heavy. The day you cannot run as fast. The day you look at your bank account and feel regret. The day you realize you have built walls of comfort so thick that you cannot see beyond them anymore. That is when the punishment speaks. It speaks softly at first, a little guilt, a little sadness, a little fear that maybe you have lost something important and did not notice when it happened. The hardest part is that the mind will often tell you stories to protect the pleasure. It will say, you deserve it. It will say everyone does it. It will say one more time will not hurt. It will say life is short, so why not enjoy it? The mind is clever. It knows how to justify a choice that feels good even if it leads you into quiet suffering later. And if you are not careful, the mind will become your greatest salesman, convincing you to keep buying moments of happiness on credit. There is no shame in wanting pleasure. There is no shame in seeking comfort. These are natural human desires. But the question that can save you is simple. Will this pleasure build me, or will it weaken me? Will this comfort give me strength tomorrow, or will it steal my strength in silence? When you ask yourself this before reaching out your hand, you start to see the difference between true pleasure and false pleasure. True pleasure nourishes you. It leaves you richer, not poorer. It adds energy instead of stealing it. It creates life instead of draining it. It is not easy to resist the easy path. It is not easy to say no to something that feels good right now. It takes strength. It takes vision. It takes the courage to trust that some pleasures are not gifts, but traps. It takes patience to believe that deeper rewards are worth more than shallow ones. But every time you make that choice, something inside you grows, a kind of quiet pride, a steady power, a trust in yourself that cannot be bought with short-term highs. Imagine standing in that room again. The lights are still warm, the music still floats in the air, the tray of dessert still calls your name. But this time, you do not move without thinking. You feel the pull, you hear the whisper, but you also hear a different voice, a stronger voice, a voice that asks gently, "Is this pleasure worth the price it hides?" You smile, you thank the tray for the offer, and you walk away, not because you are punishing yourself, not because you think pleasure is wrong, but because you know what real strength feels like now. You know that true pleasure is never something that robs you after it kisses you. True pleasure is something that holds your hand even after the music fades. In a world that sells comfort at every corner, strength is the ability to choose discomfort when it serves a greater life. It is the ability to delay a small yes for the sake of a bigger one. It is the quiet art of building a life where the pleasures you allow yourself are the ones that leave you better, not broken. And the beauty is, the more you live this way, the easier it becomes. The more you taste the rewards of true strength, the less you crave the cheap rewards of false pleasure. The more you experience the peace that comes from right choices, the more the noise of easy temptations fades. You become someone who is not easily fooled by shiny surfaces. You become someone who sees the hidden cost before paying the price. The pleasure that punishes will always be there, waiting in the corners of life, but you will not be its servant anymore. You will be someone who smiles at the offer and walks on, carrying something much rarer in your heart, a strength that no one can sell you, a freedom that no one can take away, a pleasure that does not punish but plants seeds of power in every step you take. And in the quiet moments when you sit alone with your thoughts, you will feel something that cannot be bought, a satisfaction deeper than sweetness, a joy sharper than any quick reward, a pride that comes from knowing you chose the path that built you, even when it was harder. And that kind of pleasure, the one you earn through wisdom and strength, never punishes. It only makes you more alive. The trust that tempts betrayal. Picture two people sitting across from each other at a small table. The air between them is heavy with unspoken promises. One hand reaches out, offering something invisible but powerful. It is not a gift you can hold in your hands. It is trust, a delicate thread stretching between two hearts. The receiver accepts it, quietly at first, then more openly. A connection is formed, a silent agreement that says, "I will not hurt you." But inside this beautiful moment, hidden deep in the folds of vulnerability, a strange and dangerous temptation is born. The temptation to betray. Trust, in its purest form, is a breathtaking thing. It means stepping into uncertainty with open arms. It means handing someone a map to your weaknesses and believing they will not use it against you. But this is exactly where the paradox lives. The very act of trusting gives another person the power to hurt you in ways a stranger never could, and the more deeply you trust, the sharper the blade becomes if it is ever turned against you. We often think that trust simply brings people closer, that it builds loyalty and safety, and in many ways it does, but it also invites something darker. It creates a tension, a silent question, lurking just under the surface. Now that I have this power, will I use it? Even good people can feel it. The seductive pull of knowing you hold someone's heart in your hands, the knowledge that you could break it if you wanted to, that you could walk away richer while they stand there empty. This is why betrayal almost never comes from enemies. It comes from those we let close, from those who knew exactly where the cracks in our armor were. Betrayal is not the destruction of trust by accident. It is the destruction of trust by invitation. Trust tempts because it offers a secret kind of power, The kind of power that is invisible to the world but blindingly obvious to the one who holds it. Imagine a key placed in your palm. You are told it unlocks someone's deepest fears, their oldest wounds, their wildest hopes. You are told, this key is given freely, not out of fear, not out of obligation, but out of love. Most people will treasure it. They will guard it like something sacred. But some part of every human mind, even if it is buried deep, will whisper, you could use this, you could win, you could hurt, you could take. It is not just malice that tempts betrayal. It is curiosity. It is the thrill of forbidden knowledge. It is the quiet voice that wonders what it would feel like to cross the line, to step into forbidden territory, to test the limits of how much someone can forgive. Trust does not simply invite love. It also invites temptation. This is the price of opening your heart. The saddest part is that betrayal rarely feels monstrous in the moment it happens. It often begins with tiny cracks, a small lie, a broken promise, a selfish choice dressed up as necessity. It creeps in slowly, like ivy growing over a wall. By the time it is visible, the roots have already strangled what was once alive and breathing. When you trust someone, you are not just offering them kindness. You are offering them a weapon, and you are trusting that they will never raise it against you. It is a beautiful gamble. It is the only way real love, real friendship, real connection can exist. But it carries with it the constant risk that the same hands you reached for in hope may one day push you away in betrayal. Why, then, do we still trust? Why do we still reach out across the table and offer our hearts wrapped in invisible strings? Because without trust, life is hollow. Without trust, every relationship becomes a transaction. Every connection becomes a calculation. To live without trust is to live in fear. It is to build walls so high that even joy cannot climb over. The truth is, trust makes betrayal possible. But it also makes everything good possible. The deeper the trust, the deeper the betrayal can hurt. But also, the deeper the joy can heal. Trust is a risk worth taking, not because people never fail, but because the moments when trust is honored are worth every scar we carry. Picture again the two people at the table. One reaches out, the other accepts. The thread of trust stretches between them, shimmering and fragile. They both know, whether they say it or not, that this thread could snap. They both know the power they are giving each other, and still they choose to believe. Still they choose to hold on. There is something more courageous in trusting than in defending. It takes more strength to open your heart knowing it might be broken than to lock it away in a fortress where no one can touch it. Trust is not a weakness. It is the boldest leap a human can take. If you have been betrayed, you know the searing pain it leaves behind. You know how it echoes through every future relationship, every future risk. But you also know that healing is not found in closing yourself off. Healing is found in learning to trust again. Wiser this time, perhaps. Slower, maybe, but still willing, still reaching. Trust tempts betrayal because it creates real vulnerability. And real vulnerability is the birthplace of everything that makes life beautiful. Love, forgiveness, growth. Trust is a gamble, but it is also a gift. A gift that says, even knowing the risks, I choose to believe. I choose to open my heart. I choose to live fully. The paradox is painful but powerful. Trust invites betrayal, but without trust, nothing lasting can be built. Without trust, we are alone in the world. It is better to risk being broken than to guarantee being alone. So the next time someone offers you their trust, or the next time you offer yours, remember the invisible power you are handing over. Treat it as sacred. Protect it fiercely. Because in a world that tempts betrayal at every turn, the simple act of keeping a promise, of guarding a heart, of honoring a thread of trust, becomes something heroic. The dream that destroys sleep. Imagine lying in bed at night. The lights are off. The air is cool. The world outside is quiet. Everything around you is ready for rest. Yet inside your mind, something stirs. A thought flickers. A picture forms. A dream, shining and beautiful, rises in front of you like a mountain you must climb. It feels exciting. It feels urgent. Your heart beats a little faster. Your breathing changes without you noticing. Sleep stands at the edge of your bed, waiting patiently for you to invite it in. But you are already elsewhere. You are already running toward a future that does not yet exist. This is the beginning of a strange battle that many people do not realize they are fighting. The very dreams that give life meaning can sometimes steal peace from the present moment. They can fill the mind with restless energy. They can whisper promises that keep the soul awake when the body longs to rest. And so you lie there, chasing shadows instead of sinking into stillness. The dream grows larger. It feels so close, so important. It feels like you must solve it tonight. You must think more, plan more, worry more. The night becomes a canvas for your ambition, and sleep becomes a distant memory. At first, it does not seem harmful. It feels like passion. It feels like drive. It feels like a sign that you care deeply about your future, and in some ways, it is. Dreams are not the enemy. Hope is not a weakness. Wanting to grow, to build, to create, to achieve is natural. It is part of what makes life rich. But what few people realize is that even good dreams can turn into silent thieves if they are not given their proper place. Even noble ambitions can disturb the delicate balance the mind needs to rest and heal. Sleep asks for surrender. Dreams demand pursuit. Sleep invites you to let go. Dreams tell you to hold tighter. Sleep thrives on trust, a quiet faith that tomorrow will take care of itself. Dreams often awaken fear, a gripping belief that if you do not act now, everything will slip away. And when these two forces collide, it is almost always sleep that loses. Because the mind is easier to stir than to calm. It is easier to chase than to release. You may tell yourself that thinking a little longer will help, that worrying a little harder will solve the puzzle, that staying awake to imagine every detail will somehow make it real faster. But the truth is, the longer you entertain the restless dream, the further you drift from the shores of deep sleep. The body may lie still, but the mind is running a marathon through endless possibilities. And when the sun rises, you wake not refreshed, but hollow, not ready, but drained. The dream that was supposed to build you has stolen your strength in the quiet of the night. This is the strange paradox. The dream that inspires you during the day can become the chain that weakens you at night. If you do not learn to separate dreaming from resting, ambition from peace, hope from control, you will always feel caught between two worlds. You will never truly sleep. You will never truly wake. The art is not in abandoning your dreams. It is not in pretending you do not care. It is in learning to trust that the seeds you plant during the day will grow without your constant digging at night. It is in believing that effort is powerful, but so is surrender. It is in understanding that the soil of your mind needs rest as much as it needs work. Without rest, even the best seeds wither. Without stillness, even the brightest dreams burn out before they blossom. Imagine again lying in bed. The lights are off. The air is cool. The world outside is quiet. The dream rises again in your mind. But this time, you smile at it gently. You greet it like an old friend. You tell it, not now. You tell it, I see you. I believe in you. But now is the time to rest. You promise you will meet it again in the morning with new strength and new clarity. And then you let it go. You give yourself permission to do nothing. You let your breathing slow. You let your body sink deeper into the mattress. You let sleep carry you away like a river that knows the way home. The dream does not disappear. It does not grow weaker because you let it rest. In fact, it grows stronger. It roots itself deeper into the soil of your being. It prepares quietly while you sleep. And when you wake, it greets you with renewed life, ready to walk beside you instead of dragging you through the night. To live well is to know when to chase and when to release. To know when to build and when to heal. To know that dreams are not meant to rob you of the life you already have. They are meant to add to it. But they can only do that if you remain whole. They can only do that if you remember that a life lived only in the future is a life half-lived. There will always be another mountain to climb, another idea to nurture, another vision to chase. But there will never be another tonight. Never another chance to close your eyes and rest in the simple miracle of being alive. To sleep deeply is to trust deeply. It is to say, I have done enough for today. It is to whisper to your dreams, I will meet you again when the sun rises. And so you drift into sleep, not as a prisoner of your ambitions, but as a master of them. Not fearing the dreams that light your soul, but holding them with a light hand, knowing they will wait for you, knowing they will grow stronger in the quiet spaces you create. And when you wake, you will not be chasing shadows. You will be walking in the sun, carrying your dreams not as burdens, but as blessings. The honesty that hides lies. Imagine a man standing at a podium. He speaks with clear eyes and a steady voice. His words sound sincere. Every sentence feels raw, open, and true. The audience leans in, drawn by the feeling that this man is not hiding anything, that what they see is what they get. But deep inside his honesty, behind the words he carefully selects, there is something missing. A truth not told. A lie not spoken, but still present. This is the strange and quiet paradox of honesty. It can be used not just to reveal, but also to conceal. Most of us think of honesty as a pure thing. We are taught that if someone is being honest, they are trustworthy. That the more someone tells us about themselves, the safer they are. But honesty is not always complete. Sometimes honesty shows just enough to hide what really matters. Sometimes it becomes a shield. Sometimes it becomes a distraction. You hear the story they want you to hear. You see the part of them they are willing to show. And because they seem open, you stop looking for what they are keeping in the dark. Imagine someone telling you about a past mistake. They confess a wrong decision. They admit a failure. It feels real. It feels vulnerable. But what if the mistake they told you about is a small one, a safe one carefully chosen to make them look relatable without exposing anything truly dangerous? What if the real mistakes, the ones that would change how you see them, are left untouched and unspoken? This is the honesty that hides lies. It is a performance of openness that covers the very things that would matter most. It is not always done with evil intent. Sometimes people hide truths because they are afraid of rejection, afraid of being truly seen. Sometimes they tell a little truth to keep the deeper truth safe. Other times it is a calculated move, a way to control the story, a way to seem brave while still protecting the image they want others to believe. In both cases, the honesty is real, but it is also incomplete. And incomplete honesty can be more dangerous than a simple lie. Because when someone lies to you directly, you know you have been lied to. You may not know immediately, but once you discover it, you understand what happened. But when someone gives you a half-truth wrapped in sincerity, you are left doubting yourself. You feel the betrayal but cannot quite name it. You sense something is wrong but have no proof. You wonder if you are imagining it. And that uncertainty eats away at your trust slowly from the inside out. There is a certain beauty in the act of sharing honestly. It creates connection. It builds bridges between hearts. But when honesty is used selectively, when it is used to paint a certain picture while leaving critical colors off the canvas, it stops being connection and becomes manipulation. It becomes a way of saying, "Look at me, I am vulnerable," while quietly hiding the parts that would make the story much more complicated. Think about how often you see this play out in daily life. In relationships, where someone shares just enough pain to seem real, but never enough to show the patterns they keep repeating. In workplaces, where leaders admit to small faults but hide the decisions that led to real harm. In friendships, where confessions are made, but the biggest betrayals are left buried under smiles and jokes. Honesty becomes a costume, a way to look open while staying closed. Why does this happen? Why do people choose partial honesty over full truth? Part of it is survival. Full truth makes you defenseless. It strips away the masks. It invites judgment, and judgment can hurt. Another part is strategy. We live in a world where perception matters, where being seen as honest is sometimes more important than being honest. So people learn early how to curate their truths, how to reveal enough to seem genuine but hold back enough to stay safe. But here is the secret. Real honesty, the kind that heals and transforms, is messy. It is uncomfortable. It does not always make you look good. It does not always make the listener feel reassured. It is risky because it is raw. It says, "Here I am in my fullness with all my broken parts." Real honesty does not hide behind carefully chosen admissions. It stands naked, trembling maybe, but brave. If you want to find the honesty that heals, you must look past the words. Listen not just to what is said, but to what is left unsaid. Notice the silences. Notice the way the story is framed. Notice when a confession seems a little too polished, a little too convenient. The truth often lives in the places people avoid, not in the places they shine a spotlight on. And if you want to offer real honesty to others, you must be willing to step beyond the safe truths. You must be willing to tell the stories that do not have clean endings. You must be willing to share the parts of yourself that you fear will drive people away, because it is in those moments of real risk that real connection is born. Imagine two people sitting together, sharing stories of who they are. Not the curated versions, not the cleaned-up admissions, but the full, messy beauty of their journeys. Imagine the kind of bond that could form when honesty is not a mask but a mirror that says, "I see you, and I am not running away." The honesty that hides lies may protect you in the short term. It may win you admiration. It may make you seem relatable. But it builds walls instead of bridges. It creates distance where there could have been closeness. It teaches you to fear your own depth instead of embracing it. There will always be a temptation to hide behind safe honesty. There will always be a fear that full truth will cost you too much. But the paradox is clear. Only by risking everything do you gain everything. Only by being fully seen can you be fully loved. Only by telling the whole story can you find the kind of peace that does not come from admiration but from true acceptance. The next time you find yourself tempted to offer just a piece of the truth, ask yourself, what am I protecting? What am I afraid they will see? And what might happen if I trusted them with the whole picture? Honesty is a doorway. Half-truths only open it a crack. Full truths throw it wide open. And sometimes it is in walking through that open door that we finally find ourselves free. The kindness that kills. Picture this. A little bird falls from its nest. It lies trembling on the ground, weak and frightened. A person walking by sees it and feels a wave of compassion. Their heart aches at the sight of such a fragile creature. They scoop up the bird gently. They take it home. They feed it crumbs and water. They wrap it in cloth to keep it warm. They protect it from the dangers of the outside world. It feels like an act of pure goodness. But what if, in their kindness, they unknowingly take away what the bird needed most? The bird does not learn how to fly. It never strengthens its wings. It never feels the rush of wind or the strength of survival. In saving it from struggle, they save it also from growth. The kindness that was meant to heal becomes the very thing that harms. The bird survives for a while, but never truly lives. Kindness is one of the most beautiful forces in the world. It builds bridges. It heals wounds. It lifts people from darkness. But like all powerful forces, if used without wisdom, it can also cause damage. Sometimes the kindness we offer others does not nourish their strength but weakens it. Sometimes what we call helping is actually holding back, and because it is wrapped in good intentions, it is harder to see. Imagine a parent who never lets their child fall. They catch every stumble, they shield every failure, they solve every problem before it even arrives. To the child, life seems easy. Every need is met. Every fear is softened. But deep inside, something important is missing. The child never learns the weight of failure, never learns how to rise after falling, never learns to trust their own strength. The kindness that protected them also stole their resilience. The same pattern plays out in relationships, in friendships, in work, and in life. We see someone we love struggling. We rush to fix it for them. We speak for them when they hesitate. We fight battles that are not ours to fight. We carry burdens that were meant to teach them how to carry their own. And while it feels noble in the moment, while it feels loving, the deeper truth is that we may be standing in the way of their growth. Kindness without wisdom can be a cage built out of soft words and easy comforts. It can trap someone in a life where they are forever dependent, forever fragile, forever doubting their own power. True kindness is not about making life painless. True kindness is about walking beside someone as they struggle. It is about offering support without stealing the lessons that only struggle can teach. There is a subtle difference between lifting someone up and carrying them so far that their own legs forget how to move, between offering a hand and becoming the crutch they never learned to live without. It takes deep awareness to know when to help and when to step back. It takes courage to watch someone you love wrestle with difficulty and to trust that they will find their way. The kindness that kills often begins with the fear that someone we love will suffer. We believe that suffering is unbearable, that it must be avoided at all costs. But growth often comes dressed as pain. Strength often rises from the ashes of failure. Wisdom often blooms only after loss. When we rush to protect people from these natural teachers, we rob them of the very tools they need to become whole. Imagine someone learning to walk a tightrope. Each step is shaky. Each moment is filled with fear. You stand nearby holding a soft net. Your instinct is to pull them down every time they look like they might fall. But if you pull them too soon, they never learn balance. They never learn trust in their own body. They never know the thrill of taking a shaky step and finding that the ground holds after all. True kindness is not pulling them down. It is holding the net loosely. It is standing close, but not interfering. It is being ready to catch them if they fall, but not preventing the fall altogether. It is believing so deeply in their ability to find their way that you allow them to face discomfort. It is loving them enough to let them hurt a little if that hurt is the path to strength. In our own lives, it is also important to notice the kindness we show ourselves. Sometimes we are too soft with our own potential. We forgive our laziness. We excuse our procrastination. We comfort ourselves with lies that we are trying when we know deep inside we are not. We think we are being kind. We think we are protecting ourselves from pain. But often, we are killing our dreams in slow motion, with endless permission to stay small. Real kindness to yourself is not endless forgiveness for doing less than you are capable of. It is the quiet discipline that says, I believe you can do better. It is the courage to face discomfort for the sake of becoming more. It is the steady hand that pulls you up when you want to stay lying down. It is love in the form of standards, not just comfort. Kindness is a gift when it is given with wisdom. It is a weapon when it is given without understanding. It takes a strong heart to look past immediate comfort and see the longer journey. It takes a clear mind to love someone enough to let them wrestle with their own life. It takes a brave spirit to believe in growth even when it looks like failure. Imagine standing at the edge of a river. You see someone you care about trying to cross. The current is strong. They struggle and stumble. Your instinct is to rush in and carry them across. But you stop. You watch. You see their arms finding strength. You see their feet learning the hidden paths beneath the water. You call out encouragement. You cheer their smallest victories. You only step in if they are truly drowning, not just struggling. And when they reach the other side, they do not look at you as their savior. They look at you as the witness to their own strength. That is the kindness that heals instead of kills. That is the love that frees instead of traps. That is the gift we give when we trust the people we love to become whole through their own journey. Kindness is beautiful. It is needed. It is one of the purest forces in the world. But it becomes truly powerful when it is guided by wisdom, when it knows when to offer a hand and when to simply walk beside, when it chooses to believe in strength even when weakness seems easier to comfort. And the ones who receive that kind of kindness will not grow fragile. They will grow fierce. They will not become dependent. They will become free. They will not need to be saved. They will learn to save themselves. And in the quiet, when they look back at the moments they almost fell and almost gave up, they will see you standing there. Not as the one who carried them, but as the one who believed they could carry themselves. And that belief will be the greatest kindness you ever gave. The touch that burns cold. Picture this. A hand reaches out to touch your shoulder. You expect warmth, you expect comfort, but instead you feel something chilling, something that leaves a cold mark deeper than the skin. The fingers are soft, the gesture gentle, but it sends a shiver down your spine. You pull away, confused. How can something that looks so kind feel so wrong? How can a touch be given in tenderness, yet leave you feeling emptier than before? There are moments in life when touch does not heal. It wounds in ways words never could. A touch can burn without heat. It can make you doubt your own senses. It can whisper to you that you are loved while leaving you colder than before. This is the touch that burns cold, and it is a paradox that many feel but few dare to name. Imagine someone you once trusted placing their hand on yours, speaking words of reassurance while their actions betray you in 1,000 quiet ways. The touch tells a story that the heart knows is not true. It tells you to stay when your soul is begging you to run. It tells you everything is fine while a storm gathers behind their calm eyes. You feel the chill in their touch before you even understand what is wrong. It is a signal from your deeper self, a quiet warning that something sacred has been broken. Touch is supposed to bring connection. It is supposed to bridge the distance between two people. A hug, a kiss, a gentle hand on the shoulder. All of these are meant to say, you are not alone. But when touch becomes detached from true emotion, when it is used to cover guilt or hide betrayal, it becomes something else. It becomes a lie written on the skin. Sometimes the touch that burns cold comes from people who no longer love us but do not want to lose us. Sometimes it comes from those who feel obligated but not devoted. Sometimes it comes from those who are battling their own storms and can no longer give warmth even when they want to. The hand reaches out, but the heart stays hidden. And we feel that emptiness more clearly than any words could ever explain. You might wonder, why does the body react so strongly to something so subtle? How can a simple touch carry so much meaning? It is because the body knows what the mind tries to deny. The body feels the disconnection before the mind can rationalize it. Long before you admit to yourself that the relationship has changed, long before you speak the words you are afraid to say, your skin already knows. Your heart already knows. The coldness tells the truth. Think about the times you felt most loved. Was it not when touch and intention were one and the same? When a hand on your back felt like a fortress? When an arm around your shoulders felt like home? Real warmth cannot be faked. It flows from a place of true connection. It wraps around you and sinks into your bones. It says you are safe, you are seen, you are valued. But when touch is used as a mask, when it is used to pretend everything is fine, it loses its power. It becomes an echo of what once was. It becomes a ghost of love instead of love itself. And the ghost haunts you. You carry the memory of warmth, but now it is laced with coldness, and every new touch feels like a betrayal of what it used to mean. It is one of the cruelest kinds of heartbreak. Not the loud betrayal, not the screaming fights, but the slow fading of real connection. The way a kiss can become a duty, the way a hug can feel like a chore, the way a touch that once healed can now hurt without leaving a mark. You might try to convince yourself it is nothing. You might tell yourself you are imagining it. You might cling to the gestures, the rituals, the appearances of closeness. But deep down, you know, the body does not lie. The touch that burns cold is a truth too deep to be ignored. It teaches you something painful but necessary. It teaches you that presence without passion is absence in disguise. It teaches you that staying physically close means nothing if hearts have already drifted far apart. It teaches you that you deserve more than a hand that reaches for you out of habit. You deserve a hand that reaches for you out of love. And it teaches you something even deeper. That sometimes you must be the one to step away. That sometimes you must recognize when the touch that once brought you life now drains you. That leaving is not always betrayal. Sometimes it is an act of profound loyalty to yourself. Imagine again the hand reaching for you. This time you recognize the coldness before it seeps into your bones. You smile gently. You step back, not in anger, but in understanding. You choose not to accept what is only a shadow of what you need. You honor the love that once existed but refuse to let its ghost haunt you. You choose warmth. You choose truth. You choose yourself. In a world that often values appearances over reality, it is easy to mistake touch for connection. But connection lives deeper than skin. It lives in the spaces between words. It lives in the unseen threads that bind two souls together. And when those threads break, no amount of touch can mend them unless the hearts themselves are willing. The touch that burns cold is a warning. It is a gift wrapped in pain. It tells you it is time to look deeper. It tells you it is time to ask harder questions. It tells you that what you feel is real and deserves to be honored. There will be those who touch you with warmth so real it feels like sunlight. And there will be those whose touch leaves you colder than you were before. Learn to tell the difference. Learn to trust the wisdom of your own skin. Learn to believe the feelings that words might try to cover. Because in the end, the touch that burns cold is not the end of love. It is the end of pretending. It is the beginning of choosing yourself. It is the start of finding the kind of touch that heals rather than hides. The kind that feels like coming home. The yes that means no. Picture this. You are sitting across from someone you care about. Maybe it is a friend. Maybe it is a family member. Maybe it is a stranger you want to impress. They ask you for something, a favor, your time, your energy, something that you know deep inside you do not want to give. Your body tenses, your heart races. A small voice inside you says, no, this is not right for you. But when your mouth opens, what comes out is not no, it is yes. A soft yes, a reluctant yes. A yes that feels heavy the moment it leaves your lips. You smile, you nod, you agree. On the outside, everything looks fine. But inside, something begins to crack. Something important, something true. You have said yes, but your soul is screaming no. You have betrayed yourself for the sake of avoiding discomfort. You have traded your peace for temporary approval. You have placed someone else's wants above your own needs. And the worst part is, no one forced you. You handed it over willingly. This is the quiet tragedy of the yes that means no. It looks harmless. It even looks kind. It keeps the peace. It avoids conflict. It makes you seem generous. But every time you say yes when you mean no, you carve away a small piece of your authenticity. You teach yourself that your feelings do not matter. You teach yourself that it is safer to abandon yourself than to risk disappointing someone else. At first, the cost is almost invisible. A little resentment, a little exhaustion, a little regret. Nothing too loud. Nothing that demands immediate attention. But over time, these small betrayals pile up. They become habits. They shape how you see yourself. You begin to believe that your value lies in how much you can give, how much you can endure, how little you can ask for in return. You lose touch with the clear voice inside you that knows what is right for you. The yes that means no is not real generosity. Real generosity comes from overflow, from a full heart that chooses to give freely. False generosity comes from fear, fear of rejection, fear of conflict, fear of being seen as selfish or unkind. When you say yes out of fear, you are not giving a gift. You are offering a sacrifice. And sacrifices made out of fear eventually breed bitterness. Imagine carrying a basket filled with fruits. Every time someone asks, you give them some. At first it feels good. You are happy to share. But you never stop to refill the basket. You never pause to check if you still have enough for yourself. Slowly, the basket grows lighter. Slowly, your arms grow tired. Eventually, you look down and see that there is nothing left to give. And you wonder why you feel so empty. Saying no when you mean no is not an act of cruelty. It is an act of honesty. It is an act of respect. Not just for yourself, but for the other person as well. When you offer a true yes, it is a gift of real energy, real joy. When you offer a false yes, it is a hollow shell. It looks like kindness, but it carries resentment in its pocket. Learning to say no is one of the hardest skills in life. It feels uncomfortable. It feels risky. It feels like walking into a storm without an umbrella. But every time you say no when your heart means no, you grow stronger. You honor the truth inside you. You teach yourself that your needs are valid. You show others that your love is real because it is rooted in truth, not in fear. There will always be moments when the easy path is to say yes, when the pressure is strong, when the smile on the other person's face makes it almost impossible to refuse. But if you listen closely, you will hear the quiet voice inside you. It speaks softly, but it speaks clearly. It says, "This is not right for you." It says, "You have the right to choose." It says, "Love that demands self-betrayal is not love at all." Imagine standing at a crossroads. One path is wide and smooth. It is the path of easy yes, the path of approval and applause, the path where you are liked but not known. The other path is narrow and rocky. It is the path of honest no, the path of boundaries, the path where some may be disappointed, but you remain whole. It takes courage to choose the rocky path. It takes faith to believe that the people who truly love you will not abandon you for choosing yourself. Not every no needs to be loud. Not every no needs to be harsh. Sometimes the most powerful no is a gentle one, a quiet one, a simple, clear no without anger or apology. No, I cannot. No, that does not work for me. No, I need to rest. No, I choose differently. And then letting the silence stand, letting the discomfort pass, letting the truth be enough. Over time, the more you practice this, the less terrifying it becomes. You begin to see that real relationships are not built on endless yes. They are built on mutual respect, on trust that each person will speak their truth, on the understanding that saying no is not rejection, it is connection. It is showing up as your full self instead of a shadow. You also start to see the places where you yourself have pressured others into saying yes when they meant no. You learn to ask differently. You learn to listen more closely. You become someone who welcomes the truth, even when it is not what you hope to hear. And in doing so, you create space for real love to grow. The yes that means no is a quiet poison. It tastes sweet at first, but leaves bitterness behind. It drains life. It steals joy. It builds walls where there should be bridges. But the honest no, given with courage and care, is medicine. It heals. It strengthens. It clears the fog and shows the path forward. Imagine again sitting across from someone you care about. They ask you for something. You feel the familiar tug. You hear the familiar pressure. But this time you pause. You breathe. You check inside. And if the answer is no, you say it. Gently, kindly, clearly. And you watch as the world does not end. You watch as honesty plants its quiet seeds in the soil between you, and you realize something beautiful. Every true no makes space for a deeper yes. A yes that comes from real desire. A yes that brings real joy. A yes that builds real connection. And that kind of yes is a gift to everyone, including yourself. The escape that enslaves. Picture a man running through a forest at night. Branches scratch his arms. Stones cut his feet. But he does not slow down. He runs faster, heart-pounding, desperate to escape something chasing him. He believes that if he can just keep moving, if he can just get far enough away, he will finally be free. Yet what he does not realize is that with every step forward, he is carrying the very thing he is running from. It is not behind him. It is inside him. His escape is not saving him. It is enslaving him. There is a strange and painful truth about escape. Sometimes the things we run from most fiercely are the things we trap ourselves with most completely. Sometimes the harder we try to get away, the deeper we fall into the very prisons we fear. Escape feels like freedom at first. It feels like a fresh start, a new chance, a way to leave pain behind. But escape is not always about moving towards something better. Sometimes it is just running blindly away from discomfort. And when you run without purpose, without healing, you often find yourself chained even tighter to what you try to leave behind. Imagine someone who leaves a broken relationship, thinking distance alone will heal the wounds. But wherever they go, the memories follow. The fears follow. The patterns follow. They meet new people, but the same doubts creep in. The same arguments rise. The same loneliness blooms in the quiet moments. They escape the person, but not the pain. They escape the place, but not the problem. Without inner change, escape changes nothing. Or think of someone who escapes into work, burying themselves in endless tasks to avoid facing the grief they feel. At first, the distraction is comforting. It feels productive. It feels like strength. But soon the work becomes a cage. The busyness becomes a wall. They are no longer free. They are trapped in their own escape route, running from sadness but building a life ruled by exhaustion and emptiness. The escape that enslaves often begins with good intentions. It begins with the desire to survive, to protect oneself, to find peace. But survival is not the same as healing. Protection is not the same as growth. True peace cannot be found by running away. It can only be found by walking through the pain with open eyes and an open heart. The reason escape is so tempting is because pain demands to be felt, and feeling it can seem unbearable. It asks you to sit still when every part of you wants to move. It asks you to listen when every part of you wants to shout or hide. Escape offers a shortcut. It offers the illusion that you can outrun grief, outrun fear, outrun yourself, but you cannot heal what you refuse to face, and what you refuse to face grows larger in the dark. Imagine trying to push a beach ball underwater. You can force it down for a while. You can hold it beneath the surface with all your strength. But the moment you stop pushing, it bursts back up, often with even more force than before. That is how suppressed pain works. That is how avoided fears work. They do not disappear because you run from them. They simply wait, and the longer you run, the stronger they become. There is a difference between choosing a new path because you have healed, and choosing a new path because you are afraid. One leads to freedom. The other leads to new prisons that look different, but feel the same. True escape is not about distance. It is about transformation. It is about facing the wound and allowing it to close, not just covering it up with distractions. Sometimes the escape that enslaves looks like endless travel, moving from city to city, job to job, relationship to relationship, never staying long enough for the real self to catch up. Other times it looks like emotional numbness, a quiet refusal to feel anything too deeply. It can even look like addiction, chasing the high of forgetting, never noticing how tightly the chains are wrapping around the heart. You might wonder, how do you tell if your escape is saving you or enslaving you? The answer is simple but hard. Look at what happens when you stop moving, when the distractions fall silent, when you sit alone with yourself. If peace rises inside you, you have found true freedom. If panic rises, if loneliness floods in, if regret and fear start whispering louder, then the escape has become a prison. The real path to freedom is not easy. It asks you to slow down when you most want to speed up. It asks you to feel the ache fully instead of covering it up. It asks you to walk into the places that scare you most and stand there until the fear begins to fade. It is slow work. It is painful work. But it is the only work that truly frees you. Imagine the man in the forest stopping. Imagine him realizing that no matter how fast he runs, he cannot outrun himself. He sits down among the trees, breathless, heart aching. For the first time, he listens. He feels the fear he tried to bury. He grieves the losses he tried to deny. He forgives himself for the mistakes he tried to forget. Slowly, the thing chasing him begins to dissolve. Not because he escaped it, but because he faced it. You do not heal by building thicker walls. You heal by tearing down the ones that are already there. You do not find freedom by running faster. You find it by standing still and facing whatever you are running from. Only then does the chase end. Only then do the chains fall away. The escape that enslaves teaches a powerful lesson. It teaches that true freedom does not come from avoiding pain, but from moving through it with courage. It teaches that what you run from will always run faster than you. It teaches that peace is not found at the end of the road, but in the quiet moment when you stop running and decide to finally come home to yourself. The next time you feel the urge to escape, pause. Ask yourself, am I moving toward healing or away from fear? Am I choosing growth or choosing avoidance? And remember, there is no shame in wanting to run. There is only sadness in never realizing you had the power to heal all along. Because true freedom is not about where you are. It is about who you are willing to become, the silence that screams. Imagine sitting across from someone in a quiet room. The conversation has stopped. There are no words being spoken. There are no movements, just a heavy stillness filling the air between you. At first, it seems peaceful. But as the seconds stretch into minutes, something begins to change. The silence thickens. It presses against your chest. It weighs on your mind. It feels louder than any scream. Though no sound is made, something important is being said, something you cannot ignore, something that demands to be heard without using a single word. This is the strange power of silence. It seems empty from the outside. It seems harmless. But silence can carry the sharpest messages. Silence can be a weapon, a shield, a bridge, or a wall. It can comfort or it can punish. It can invite or it can reject. It all depends on how it is shaped, on what it hides, on what it reveals without speaking. Sometimes silence is born from peace. Two people sit together and say nothing because words are not needed. Their bond is strong enough to rest quietly in the space between them. In that kind of silence, there is warmth. There is trust. There is ease. The silence feels like a soft blanket pulled over the moment. But not all silences are peaceful. Some silences are battles. Some silences are filled with sharp edges and hidden storms. When silence is used to withhold love, to punish, to manipulate, it becomes louder than any argument. It becomes a scream that no one dares to answer. Imagine a child who spills a cup of milk. They look up, expecting anger or comfort, a word, a gesture, something. But instead, they are met with silence. No words, no glance, just cold, heavy stillness. The child feels the weight of that silence. It tells them they are wrong. It tells them they are unworthy. It tells them they are invisible. Without a word being spoken, the silence shapes their heart. In relationships, silence can become a tool of control. It can be used to punish someone without ever raising a voice. It can say, You have disappointed me so deeply that you do not even deserve my anger. It can create fear. It can create distance. It can build invisible walls that are harder to tear down than spoken anger ever could. We often think that words are the only way we communicate. But the truth is, silence often speaks the loudest. When someone turns away instead of leaning in. When someone withholds affection instead of expressing hurt. When someone chooses distance instead of conversation. These silent choices shape relationships in ways that words never could. Silence is not always a choice made in cruelty. Sometimes it is born from fear. Sometimes from pain too deep for words. Sometimes from exhaustion. Sometimes from the belief that speaking will only make things worse. But no matter its reason, silence speaks. And when it is heavy with unresolved emotions, it screams into the spaces where words should have been. There is another kind of screaming silence, the silence we keep inside ourselves, the truths we bury, the feelings we swallow, the needs we silence because we are afraid of burdening others. We tell ourselves it is better to stay quiet, better not to cause trouble, better not to seem weak. And so we build a dam inside our hearts, holding back the floods of our true selves. At first, it feels like strength. It feels noble. But over time, the silence grows heavier. It weighs down the soul. It drains joy from life. It isolates us, even in crowded rooms. And one day, the silence inside becomes too loud to ignore. It screams in the form of anxiety. It screams in the form of depression. It screams through the body as illness, through the mind as restlessness, through the spirit as emptiness. The silence that screams inside is often the silence of unsaid words. I am hurting. I am afraid. I need help. I am lonely. I do not agree. I cannot do this anymore. These words, trapped in silence, begin to shape the life around us in ways we never intended. They create distance where there should be closeness. They create misunderstanding where there could have been healing. Learning to listen to the silence is a difficult skill. It requires stillness. It requires courage. It requires the willingness to feel uncomfortable, to lean into the spaces where nothing is said but everything is felt. It requires the patience to sit with the heavy pauses, to ask gently, what is this silence trying to tell me? It also requires learning when to break the silence, when to speak the truth that is trapped inside, when to risk discomfort for the sake of honesty, when to trust that your voice, even if it trembles, matters. That speaking, even badly, is better than suffocating under the weight of what remains unsaid. Imagine standing at the edge of a vast canyon. You shout your truth across the gap. For a moment, there is no reply, just silence. But if you wait, if you trust, the echo comes back. The world answers. Maybe not always with the response you hoped for, but with the proof that you are heard, that you exist, that you matter. In relationships, breaking the silence means choosing connection over comfort. It means saying, I am hurt, instead of punishing with distance. It means saying, I am afraid, instead of pretending everything is fine. It means choosing vulnerability over control. It means choosing honesty over pride. There is beauty in shared silence when it is chosen with love. But there is danger in silence that is used as a weapon, as a wall, as a hiding place. Learning to tell the difference is part of growing into your own strength. Learning to face the screaming silence inside yourself is part of healing. Imagine again sitting across from someone in a quiet room. This time, when the silence thickens, you reach across the table. You speak. Maybe your voice shakes. Maybe your words come slowly. But you break the spell. You invite the other person back into connection. You offer the bridge that silence tried to destroy. Not every silence needs to be filled. Some silences are sacred. Some are necessary. But the silences that scream, the silences that wound, the silences that isolate, those are the ones that need our courage. They need our honesty. They need our willingness to listen and to speak. The silence that screams will always try to build walls, but you have the power to choose differently. You can build bridges instead. You can create spaces where truth is welcomed, where feelings are honored, where voices matter. And in doing so, you turn silence from a weapon into a sanctuary. In the end, the goal is not to erase silence from life. The goal is to understand it, to respect it, to know when it is a friend and when it is a warning. And most of all, to remember that your voice is not a burden. It is a bridge. It is a gift. It is the sound of your soul choosing connection over fear. The smile that wounds. Imagine sitting across from someone whose face is lit up with a smile. Their eyes sparkle. Their mouth curves just the right way. To everyone else, it would seem warm, friendly, even kind. But you feel something different. Deep inside, there is a sting, a tightness you cannot explain. Their smile feels more like a knife than a comfort. You want to smile back, but something in you holds back, sensing the wound that hides behind their grin. This is the strange and painful truth of the smile that wounds. Most of us are taught from childhood that smiles are simple. A smile means happiness. A smile means friendliness. A smile means safety. But life teaches another lesson. Smiles are not always what they seem. Sometimes smiles are shields used to hide darker intentions. Sometimes they are weapons crafted to cut without leaving a visible mark. And sometimes they are cages trapping you with politeness when your heart is crying out for distance. Imagine a moment where someone offers you a smile after breaking your trust. They smile to smooth over the cracks they created. They smile to pretend everything is fine, and for a moment, you doubt yourself. Maybe it was not that bad. Maybe you are overreacting. Maybe their smile means they care after all. This is how the wound deepens. The smile becomes a mask that rewrites reality, making it harder for you to hold on to your own truth. Or think about the smile given during manipulation, a compliment wrapped in subtle judgment, a nod of encouragement given only after they have already decided you are not enough. The smile softens the cruelty, making it easier to swallow, but it does not lessen the hurt. It sharpens it. Because now the pain comes wrapped in confusion. How can someone who smiles at you also wound you? How can something that looks so right feel so wrong? The body often knows before the mind does. You feel the hesitation before you can explain it. You sense the discomfort before you can name it. There is a chill behind the warmth, a sharpness behind the softness, a slight tightening in your gut that whispers, "Be careful," even as your mind tries to be polite. Not all smiles that wound are deliberate. Sometimes people smile because they are uncomfortable, because they do not know how to face the damage they have caused, because they want to move past the hard feelings without doing the hard work. They smile, hoping it will erase the pain without needing to acknowledge it. But smiles cannot erase what words have scarred. They cannot rebuild what actions have broken. The smile that wounds teaches a difficult lesson about human connection. It teaches that not everything that looks kind is safe. It teaches that not every invitation to closeness is genuine. It teaches that sometimes the deepest hurts come dressed in sweetness, making them harder to recognize and even harder to heal from. You might wonder how you can protect yourself, how you can tell when a smile is real and when it carries hidden thorns. The answer is not to stop trusting smiles altogether. It is to trust your deeper senses more. Pay attention to what your body tells you. Pay attention to what their actions say when their words are silent. A real smile is consistent. It aligns with kindness that is shown even when no one is watching. A real smile is not a cover but a reflection of something solid beneath. The most dangerous smiles are the ones that ask you to doubt your own pain, the ones that make you question your right to feel hurt, the ones that say everything is fine while your heart knows it is not. Protecting yourself means honoring that inner knowing even when the outside picture looks safe and welcoming. Imagine again that moment across the table. The smile stretches across their face, but this time you stay still inside yourself. You feel the wound it carries. You recognize the dissonance between what you see and what you feel, and you choose not to betray yourself by ignoring it. You do not have to react with anger. You do not have to call it out loudly. You simply choose to see it for what it is, a smile that is not a bridge, but a warning. There is a quiet power in being able to recognize a wounding smile without letting it define you, without letting it harden your heart, without letting it make you bitter. It means you can walk through the world with open eyes, but not a closed heart. It means you can give trust carefully, but still give it. It means you can protect your soul without building walls so high that no love can enter. The smile that wounds does not have to leave a scar if you learn to meet it with wisdom instead of fear. If you learn to trust the signals your spirit sends you. If you learn to walk away from sweetness that tastes like poison. If you learn that real connection is never confusing, never manipulative, never cold beneath the warmth. And it teaches another important truth. You must also be careful with your own smile. You must learn to smile with your whole heart, or not at all. Because others will feel it. They will know when your smile carries sadness or anger or judgment hidden beneath it. True kindness does not need to wear a mask. True kindness shines through naturally, without needing to disguise itself. So the next time you receive a smile that leaves you feeling smaller, colder, more unsure of yourself, listen. Listen to the wound it creates. Listen to what your spirit is telling you. And have the courage to step away from what looks good but feels wrong, because in the end, it is not the smiles you see that define your life. It is the truth you feel in your bones. It is the warmth you recognize without having to question it. It is the people who smile at you, not just with their mouths, but with their actions, with their loyalty, with their quiet, consistent love. The smile that wounds may cross your path many times, but it does not have to break you. It can sharpen your wisdom, it can deepen your self-trust, and it can lead you toward the smiles that heal instead of harm. The apology that accuses. Imagine someone standing in front of you after a painful moment. Maybe there were harsh words. Maybe there was a betrayal. Maybe there was a quiet but deep hurt that has been sitting between you like a stone. You hope for an apology. You hope for a moment of softness. You hope for the kind of words that heal. And then they speak. I am sorry you feel that way. I am sorry if you misunderstood. I am sorry, but you made it hard for me. The words sound like an apology on the surface, but underneath, they do not feel like an apology at all. They feel like a dagger wrapped in velvet. This is the strange and painful experience of the apology that accuses. It dresses itself in the clothes of regret. It pretends to offer peace. But hidden inside the words is a silent attack, a way of shifting the blame back onto the one who was hurt, a way of defending the self while pretending to surrender. Instead of healing the wound, it presses on it even harder. Real apologies are acts of courage. They are admissions of imperfection. They are moments of deep humility when someone says, I see how I hurt you, and I take responsibility for it. No excuses. No defenses. No need to twist the pain back onto you. Just a clear and open-hearted offering of regret and a desire to make things right. But giving a real apology is hard. It means stepping into vulnerability. It means letting go of the need to be right. It means accepting that your actions caused harm even if you did not intend them to. And because it is so difficult, many people reach for a shortcut. They say the words but twist them just enough to protect their pride. Just enough to keep one foot in self-defense. Just enough to leave you questioning whether you are wrong for feeling hurt at all. The apology that accuses often follows a certain pattern. It begins with a soft opening. I am sorry. But quickly, the focus shifts. It is not about what they did. It is about how you reacted. About how sensitive you are. About how you misunderstood their good intentions. The real message is not, I am sorry I hurt you. The real message is, you should not feel hurt. It tells you that the real problem is not their action, but your feelings. Over time, If you experience this enough, it can leave deep scars. It can make you doubt your own emotions. It can make you second-guess your instincts. It can make you shrink yourself, trying to feel less, trying to need less, trying to make your pain more convenient for others. True healing can only happen when both people are willing to sit honestly with what happened. When the person who caused hurt can face it without trying to escape through clever words. When the person who was hurt can speak their truth without being turned into the villain for feeling wounded. Imagine a mirror. When you stand in front of a true apology, you see your hurt reflected and honored. You see your experience acknowledged. You feel seen and heard. But when you stand in front of the apology that accuses, the mirror twists. It shows you a distorted reflection. It suggests that maybe you are the one who should be apologizing. It leaves you standing there alone, holding not just your original pain, but the new confusion piled on top of it. There is no shame in wanting an apology. There is no weakness in needing your hurt to be acknowledged. But it is important to recognize when what is being offered is not real healing but a disguised form of blame. To protect yourself from falling deeper into the trap of self-doubt, you must learn to hear the difference. A real apology says, "I am sorry I hurt you." Full stop. No ifs, no buts, no blaming. A real apology opens a door. A false apology slams it shut while pretending to leave it open. It is also important to look at ourselves. To ask with honesty, have I ever given an apology that accused? It is easy to do when we feel cornered, when we feel guilty but also defensive, when we want to make peace but also protect our pride. But true strength is in laying down the need to be right. True love is in choosing connection over self-protection. Imagine being the one offering the apology. Imagine looking someone in the eye and saying, "I hurt you. I take full responsibility. I am sorry." And then stopping there. No need to explain. No need to excuse. No need to turn it around. Just staying with the discomfort. Just letting the weight of your words do their healing work. It is uncomfortable. It is humbling. But it is also beautiful. It is one of the purest gifts you can give to another human being. It says, your feelings matter. Your experience matters. You are not crazy. You are not wrong. You are worthy of care. And when you offer that kind of apology, something powerful happens. Trust is rebuilt. Not quickly, not perfectly, but one honest word at a time. The heart begins to open again. The walls begin to lower. Healing begins not through perfection, but through authenticity. In the same way, when you find yourself on the receiving end of the apology that accuses, you have the right to protect your heart. You have the right to gently but firmly say, "I hear your words, but they do not feel like an apology." You have the right to name the twisting when you see it. You have the right to walk away from conversations that pretend to heal, but actually hurt deeper. You deserve real healing. You deserve real honesty. You deserve relationships where your feelings are not just tolerated but honored. The apology that accuses is a mask. It is a wall made of words, but real connection tears down walls. It invites both people to meet in the messy, beautiful, imperfect space of truth. It is not about winning. It is not about being right. It is about choosing love over pride, humility over ego, healing over hiding. Imagine a world where people apologize with real honesty, where mistakes were not hidden under clever phrases, where pain was not minimized, where healing was not delayed by pride. It would be a world filled with stronger relationships, deeper trust, greater peace, and it starts with each of us, choosing to hear the screaming silence inside false apologies, choosing to offer our own apologies with full hearts and empty defenses, choosing to be brave enough to say, "I was wrong," and to mean it. That is the apology that heals. That is the apology that frees. That is the apology that builds bridges strong enough to carry both people to the other side of pain, into something deeper than forgiveness, into understanding, into real love, the love that breeds fear. Imagine standing in a room filled with soft light, where someone looks at you with eyes full of love. Their hands reach for you gently. Their voice wraps around you like a warm blanket. Everything about them says you are cherished, you are wanted, you are safe. But somewhere deep inside, another feeling begins to rise. It is not peace, it is not safety, it is fear. Quiet at first, almost too soft to notice. A tightening in the chest. A whisper in the mind. What if I lose this? What if I am not enough? What if this love disappears? Love, in its purest form, is supposed to free us. It is supposed to make us stronger, more alive, more connected to who we really are. But sometimes, without warning, love begins to breed fear instead. Fear of loss, fear of failure, fear of not living up to the hopes someone has placed in us. The love that was meant to build us up slowly begins to weigh us down. And we find ourselves trapped not by hatred or anger, but by the very thing we thought would set us free. Imagine a child looking up at a parent whose approval means the world. Every smile from the parent feels like sunlight. Every frown feels like winter. The child learns quickly, to be loved means to perform. To be loved means to please. To be loved means to never make a mistake too big to forgive. Over time, the pure joy of being loved turns into a heavy expectation, and the fear of losing that love becomes bigger than the love itself. Or picture a young couple in love, full of dreams and promises. At first, everything feels effortless, but as time goes on, small fears creep in. Will they still love me when they see all my flaws? What if they find someone better? What if I am not enough? The love that once made them fearless now makes them cautious. Now every word is weighed, every silence is filled with worry. Love still lives between them, but so does fear. The love that breeds fear often begins invisibly. It starts with the best of intentions. It starts with wanting to be worthy of the gift we have been given. But soon, love becomes something we have to earn again and again, something we have to protect by shrinking ourselves, by hiding parts of who we are, by building walls where there should be bridges. We tell ourselves we are being careful, that we are being responsible. But what we are really doing is living in fear of losing what we have. This kind of love feels like walking on a beautiful glass bridge. Every step is breathtaking, but every step also carries the terror that the glass might crack, that the beauty might shatter, that one wrong move will send everything crashing down. And so we walk, carefully. Too carefully. We stop dancing. We stop laughing freely. We stop being fully ourselves. Love should not demand that you live smaller. Real love does not ask you to tiptoe through your life in fear. It does not threaten to leave at the first sign of imperfection. It does not keep score or hold forgiveness hostage. Love that frees you says, "You are enough even when you stumble." Love that frees you says, "I am here not because you are perfect, but because you are you." But the love that breeds fear makes you believe that your worth is conditional. That love must be protected at all costs, even if it means losing yourself. That is the cruelest trick of all. To make you think that by holding on tighter, you are saving something beautiful, when in truth, you are suffocating it. You might wonder how to break free, how to find the line between cherishing love and being imprisoned by it. The answer lies not in loving less, but in loving more courageously, in loving with open hands instead of clenched fists, in understanding that love is not a possession to be kept safe. It is a living thing that needs room to breathe. Imagine standing again in that room filled with soft light. The person you love looks at you, and you feel that old fear rise up. But this time, you breathe deeply. You remind yourself that love is not earned by being flawless. You remind yourself that you are enough as you are. You meet their gaze not with fear, but with truth. And in that moment, love becomes something deeper, something real. True love is not fragile. It does not crack under the weight of honesty. It does not flee at the first mistake. It is built on the understanding that both people are flawed. Both people will fail each other at times, and both will stay anyway. It grows not by demanding perfection, but by embracing imperfection. If you find yourself in love that breeds fear, it is not a reason to run away. It is a reason to look inward, to ask yourself where the fear comes from. To ask yourself what stories you are carrying about what it means to be loved. Sometimes the fear comes from wounds long before the person standing in front of you. Sometimes the fear comes from a part of yourself that still believes you are not enough. Healing that fear is the first step to reclaiming love in its purest form. And if the person you love is the one planting the seeds of fear, if their love feels more like a test you must pass than a safe place you can rest, then it is time to ask harder questions. Because love should not hurt like that. Love should not make you afraid to be yourself. The love that breeds fear teaches us about our deepest vulnerabilities. It shows us where we have been hurt before. It shows us the places inside that still long for acceptance. And it invites us to heal, not by shutting love out, but by learning to love without fear. By learning that losing someone does not mean losing yourself. By learning that true love strengthens you instead of shrinking you. The next time you feel fear rising inside, love, pause, breathe. Remember that love is not a prize to be won or a fragile treasure to be guarded. It is a river that flows most freely when you stop trying to hold it tightly in your hands. Because in the end, the love that frees you will never ask you to live in fear. It will invite you to stand in the light exactly as you are, unafraid and unashamed, and to know that you are already enough. The success that feels empty. Picture this. You are standing on a stage. The lights are shining bright. The crowd is cheering. Your name is on a banner stretched across the walls. You have achieved everything you once dreamed of. You have reached the goal. You have climbed the mountain. People are clapping, smiling, celebrating you. From the outside, it looks like the perfect moment, the moment every sacrifice was meant for. And yet inside, you feel nothing, no wave of pride, no deep sense of peace, just a strange, hollow feeling growing wider with every cheer that echoes in your ears. You smile, you wave, you say thank you, but somewhere deep inside, a quiet question rises. Is this all it is? Is this really what I was chasing? Why does it feel so far from what I imagined? This is the hidden truth many people are afraid to admit. Success, the kind that is praised and admired by others, does not always bring the feeling you expect. Sometimes it brings emptiness. Sometimes it reveals how much of your journey was spent chasing approval instead of meaning. Sometimes it shines a light on the places inside you that no achievement can ever fill. When we first start chasing success, it feels pure. It feels exciting. It gives our days a direction, a fuel, a purpose. We believe that if we work hard enough, climb high enough, achieve enough, the reward will be happiness, fulfillment, a lasting sense of worth. We imagine that reaching the goal will fix the hidden loneliness, the buried insecurities, the silent fears that follow us in the dark. But success, real success, is complicated. Because if the ladder you have been climbing is leaning against the wrong wall, no matter how high you climb, the view will never satisfy. If the goal you chased was built on other people's expectations, or on an idea of yourself you thought you needed to become, then even winning the prize feels strangely like losing. Imagine someone spending years building a beautiful house, every brick placed perfectly, every detail crafted with care. They step back when it is done, expecting joy. But instead, they feel a sadness they cannot explain. Because somewhere along the way, they realize it was never the house they truly wanted. It was the approval of the people watching them build. The success that feels empty is often the success built on outer rewards rather than inner values. It is the promotion that looks good on paper, but means waking up every day to a life that does not spark your soul. It is the relationship that looks perfect in photos but feels hollow in quiet moments. It is the wealth that buys every comfort but cannot buy back the years spent living someone else's dream. It is not wrong to want success. It is not wrong to dream big or to reach high. But it is important to ask, whose voice is guiding me? What part of me believes that reaching this goal will make me enough? What am I sacrificing on the way to this prize, and is it worth it? Sometimes we chase success because we are trying to outrun a fear. The fear of being invisible, the fear of being forgotten, the fear of being seen as ordinary. But fears are not good map makers. They lead us on winding roads that may keep us busy but never bring us home. The emptiness after success is not a failure. It is a message. It is life tapping you on the shoulder, saying, "Look deeper." It is an invitation to ask harder questions. What truly matters to me? What brings me alive? What values do I want to live by, even when no one is watching? True fulfillment does not come from trophies. It comes from alignment, from living a life where your actions match your heart, from choosing paths that nourish your soul even when they are not the most celebrated ones, from building a life that feels good on the inside, even if it does not always look impressive from the outside. Imagine waking up every morning not because you have to chase something, but because you are pulled by something you love. Imagine working hard not because you fear failure, but because the work itself brings you meaning. Imagine reaching the end of a day, or a year, or a lifetime, and feeling not just proud of what you achieved, but peaceful about how you lived. This kind of success may look different. It may not always come with applause. It may not always come with awards. But it comes with something far better. It comes with peace, with a sense of being whole, with the quiet satisfaction that you did not betray yourself for a seat at someone else's table. The path to this kind of success is not easy. It requires slowing down when the world tells you to speed up. It requires asking hard questions when it would be easier to keep chasing. It requires the courage to walk away from paths that are praised but do not belong to you. It also requires forgiving yourself for the times you chased the wrong things, for the times you climbed ladders that led to empty rooftops. Every journey teaches. Every wrong turn brings wisdom. The emptiness you feel is not a curse. It is a compass, pointing you back toward yourself. Imagine sitting in the quiet after the applause fades. You feel the emptiness rise, but instead of running from it, you stay. You listen. You ask, what is it you truly need? Not what the world told you to want, not what your fears demand, but what your heart whispers when everything else is silent, and you begin again. Maybe smaller this time, maybe slower, maybe with less noise and more truth. You begin to build a life not from ambition but from meaning, not from the hunger for more, but from the joy of enough. And step by step, you find a new kind of success, the kind that does not feel empty, the kind that fills you quietly from the inside out. The success that feels empty is not the end of the story. It is the beginning of a deeper one. The beginning of a life lived not for the world, for the soul. A life where every achievement, big or small, grows from a place of real connection to who you are and what you love. And that life, even without the biggest trophies, even without the loudest applause, will be richer, deeper, and more satisfying than anything you could ever build on borrowed dreams. The gift that demands more. Imagine receiving a beautiful gift wrapped in the finest paper, tied with a golden ribbon, handed to you with a smile so genuine that you feel an immediate warmth in your chest. You unwrap it carefully, touched by the thoughtfulness, amazed by the effort that must have gone into choosing something so perfect for you. You say thank you, meaning it with all your heart, thinking the moment ends there. But as the days pass, something strange begins to happen. The giver starts expecting things from you. Small things at first, a favor here, a support there, then bigger things, obligations that slowly pile up. Each time you hesitate, They remind you with a soft smile of the gift they gave you. They never say it outright, but it is clear you owe them. The gift was never truly free. This is the trap of the gift that demands more. It is not the object itself that binds you, but the invisible threads tied around it. Gifts are supposed to be symbols of generosity, but when they come with silent expectations stitched into them, they turn into tools of control. What once felt like a simple act of kindness now becomes a contract you never agreed to sign. Picture a man who helped his friend move into a new apartment. He did it out of kindness, happy to lend his time and strength. A few months later, that same friend asks him to help renovate the kitchen, then the living room. Then he expects him to help every weekend. Each refusal feels like a betrayal of the original bond. After all, did he not help him before? The man begins to feel trapped. What began as a free gesture has now become a leash. The heart struggles with this because gratitude is one of the deepest human instincts. We are wired to feel that when someone gives us something, we must give something back. It is the glue that holds relationships together. But when someone weaponizes that instinct, it creates an emotional debt that grows heavier with time. It forces you into a position where saying no feels like a moral failure. This can happen in families, too. A parent might say, after a lifetime of support, that their child now owes them obedience, not in small matters, but in every decision, every path the child wishes to walk. The child, burdened by guilt, may choose a life that pleases the parent rather than one that fulfills themselves. All because of gifts given long ago, gifts that now loom like shadows over every choice. Even love can become a gift that demands more. Sometimes someone says they love you, and at first it feels beautiful and pure, but over time you notice that their love comes with conditions. You must act a certain way, think certain thoughts, avoid certain people, pursue certain dreams. Their love, once unconditional, becomes a currency. And if you fail to pay back with the right behavior, they withdraw it. The gift is no longer a gift, it is a chain. How do you protect yourself from this? The first step is understanding that a true gift ends with the giving. If someone hands you something and truly lets go, expecting nothing in return, that is a pure gift. It is complete. It stands alone. If expectations linger, if the gift is used to leverage your actions or emotions later, it was never a true gift. It was bait. Another important step is learning the difference between gratitude and obligation. Gratitude says, I appreciate what you did for me, and I carry that warmth in my heart. Obligation says, I must now sacrifice my freedom to balance a ledger that someone else is keeping. Gratitude enriches your life. Obligation drains it. Sometimes you will need to have difficult conversations. You may need to tell someone that while you appreciate what they did for you, your choices remain your own. This will not always be well received. Those who give with strings attached often feel betrayed when their unspoken demands are not met. But it is better to face their disappointment than to spend your life carrying invisible debts you never agreed to owe. It is also important to examine your own heart. Have you ever given a gift hoping to control someone, even in a subtle way? Have you ever helped a friend and later felt resentment when they did not respond as you wished? We all carry the seeds of this trap inside us. True generosity is an art that asks for no reward. It is a discipline of letting go. In some cultures, the idea of a true gift is sacred. In these traditions, giving is seen as a blessing for the giver more than the receiver. The act of giving itself is the reward. No tally is kept. No debt is created. This is a powerful way to live. When you give freely. When you receive freely. The circle remains unbroken. Imagine now that you receive another gift. This time, the giver smiles and says, This is for you. No need to thank me. No need to repay me. I simply wanted to give it. You feel a deep peace settle inside you. You understand now what a true gift feels like. It lifts you up rather than weighing you down. It leaves your spirit lighter, not heavier. The gift that demands more is a subtle trap because it disguises itself as kindness. But when you learn to see it clearly, you can step out of it. You can reclaim your freedom. You can give and receive without chains. You can choose relationships that are built on trust and respect, not silent transactions. And maybe, in learning this, you can also become a different kind of giver, one who offers without asking, one who frees rather than binds, one whose gifts are not traps but blessings, carried only by the lightness of love, the protection that traps. Imagine a bird living inside a golden cage. The bars are polished until they shine. Food is brought daily. The temperature is perfect. There are no predators, no storms, no dangers of the wild. From the outside, it seems like paradise, safety wrapped in gold. But if you look into the bird's eyes, you see something missing, a restlessness, a sadness, a quiet ache for something it barely remembers. The bird is protected, but it is not free. It lives surrounded by everything it needs except the one thing it wants most: freedom. Protection is something we all seek. We want to feel safe. We want to guard the people we love. We want to create spaces where nothing bad can happen. But protection carries its own shadow. When it becomes too strong, when it becomes too complete, it stops being safety and starts becoming a prison. It stops being love and starts becoming fear dressed up as care. Imagine a parent shielding their child from every possible mistake. They guide every step. They remove every obstacle. They answer every question before it is even asked. At first, it seems like love. It feels like care. But over time, the child forgets how to fall and get back up. They forget how to navigate uncertainty. They forget how to trust their own instincts. The protection that was meant to help them grow now stunts their growth. It teaches them to be afraid of the world instead of ready for it. Or imagine someone protecting their heart after a painful betrayal. They build walls so high that no hurt can ever reach them again. They close doors before anyone can walk through them. They retreat into a fortress of solitude. At first, it feels safe. It feels smart. But soon, the fortress becomes a tomb. Love cannot find its way inside. Connection cannot survive. The heart that was protected now beats alone. The trap of protection is subtle. It whispers that you are wise to be cautious. It tells you that hurt can be avoided if you are careful enough. It promises that pain can be locked out if you build strong enough barriers. But it forgets to mention that life itself is woven with risk. That joy cannot be separated from vulnerability. That growth cannot happen without some exposure to the winds of uncertainty. Protection becomes a trap when it freezes you in place, when it stops you from reaching for new experiences, when it convinces you that safety is more important than living fully. And it becomes a trap when it teaches you that the only way to love someone is to control their risks, to shield them so much that they no longer recognize their own strength. You might wonder how to know when protection has crossed the line. The answer is found in the feeling of movement. Real protection allows movement. It gives you armor but still lets you step into the world. It gives you support but still lets you fall and learn. It stands close but does not hold you down. False protection feels heavy. It feels like being wrapped so tightly in bubble wrap that you can no longer move your arms. It feels like being loved for your safety, not for your strength. Imagine again the bird in the golden cage. Imagine it singing a song that no longer carries joy, only memory. Imagine it looking out at the open sky and wondering if it could still fly. This is the sorrow of the protection that traps. It steals not only freedom, but the belief that freedom was ever possible. To truly protect someone, you must sometimes let them fall. You must sometimes let them choose badly. You must sometimes let them walk into storms. Not because you want them to hurt, but because you want them to know they can survive it. Real protection teaches resilience, not fear. It teaches courage, not dependence. It says, I am here for you, not I will shield you from everything. And to truly protect yourself, you must recognize when your own walls have stopped being shelters and have become prisons. You must have the courage to open the door, to step outside even when the air feels sharp, even when your heart trembles, even when the old scars ache, because life is not lived behind walls. It is lived in the open, where things can hurt but also where things can heal. It is a paradox that feels cruel at first. The more you seek to protect, the more you risk trapping. The more you seek to shield, the more you risk suffocating. The more you hide from pain, the more you hide from joy. There is a quiet strength in learning to live without needing to be protected from everything. There is a deep beauty in loving someone enough to let them face their battles, to stand beside them but not in front of them, to offer help but not chains, to say, I trust you to find your way, even if it means you stumble. Imagine for a moment that the cage door is opened. The bird hesitates. The open sky feels overwhelming. The ground feels far away. The air smells strange. But then, with a shiver of courage, the bird spreads its wings. It takes a shaky leap. It flutters awkwardly at first. But then, strength returns. Flight returns. Freedom returns. The cage was safe, but the sky was life. The same is true for us. We do not find our strength by being protected from every fall. We find it by falling and rising again, by daring to love even after heartbreak, by daring to dream even after failure, by daring to live even after loss. The protection that traps is a heavy kind of love, but real love sets free. Real love believes in strength, not just in safety. Real love says you are not fragile, you are resilient, you are capable, you are brave. The next time you feel yourself building walls around your heart or wrapping someone you love too tightly in your care, pause. Ask yourself, am I protecting out of love or out of fear? Am I helping them grow or keeping them small? Am I keeping myself safe or keeping myself stuck? Because in the end, the safest place to live is not inside a cage of golden fears. It is out there in the open world, wings wide, heart open, daring to live with everything you have. The fear that fuels courage. Imagine standing at the edge of a cliff. The ground beneath your feet feels steady, but the air before you feels heavy with unknowns. Below, a wide river moves slowly, shining under the sun. Behind you is the life you know, full of familiar routines and safe choices. Ahead is something you cannot fully see yet. You feel your heart pounding. You feel the weight of fear pressing against your chest. Every part of you wants to step back. Every part of you wants to choose comfort over risk. And yet, deep inside, another feeling stirs. Not louder than fear, but different. A quiet, growing pull. A whisper that says, maybe this fear is not a wall but a door. Fear is often seen as the enemy. Something to defeat, to silence, to ignore. We are taught that courage is the absence of fear, that bravery means not feeling afraid, but the deeper truth is different. Courage does not live in the absence of fear. Courage lives inside fear. It grows from it. It is shaped by it. Without fear, there is no need for courage. Fear is not the thing that stops courage. Fear is the thing that makes courage real. When you feel fear, it means you are standing at the edge of something that matters, something that asks more from you than comfort does, something that demands you stretch beyond the small borders of your current self. Fear is the signal that growth is near. It is not the end of the path. It is the beginning. Imagine a young artist holding their first painting. They want to share it with the world, but fear grips them. What if no one understands? What if people laugh? What if they are not good enough? That fear is not a sign to stop. It is a sign that they have created something that carries a piece of their soul. It is a sign that their work has meaning, and stepping forward despite the fear will not erase the fear. it will transform it. It will turn it into fuel. Fear sharpens the senses. It wakes you up. It focuses you. It reminds you that what you are about to do matters. The fear before a big decision, before a brave conversation, before a bold leap is part of the process. It is a companion, not an enemy. It walks with you to the edge, holding your hand tightly, forcing you to choose between the safe life you already know and the unknown life calling you forward. Courage is not stepping forward without fear. Courage is stepping forward with fear sitting heavily in your chest. Courage is feeling the shaking in your knees and moving anyway. Courage is hearing the voice that says you might fail and whispering back, "Maybe, but I will try." The stories we admire most, the ones that inspire us, are never about people who felt no fear. They are about people who felt fear and did not let it become their master. They are about people who felt small but chose to act big, who felt weak but chose to act strong, who doubted themselves but still chose to take the next step. Fear asks important questions. Are you ready? Are you willing to risk? Are you willing to lose something to gain something greater? Fear is not just a warning, it is also a mirror. It shows you the size of your dreams. Small dreams do not cause much fear. Safe lives do not stir much terror. It is only when you reach for something true, something wild, something alive, that fear stands up and demands your attention. And that is when you know you are on the right path. When the fear feels too big to carry, you are likely standing before a doorway that leads to a bigger version of yourself. Not a perfect self, not a fearless self, but a self who knows how to walk with fear without being ruled by it. Imagine again standing at the edge of the cliff. The fear has not gone away. It is still there, heavy and real. But you shift your weight forward. You take one step, then another. You leap. For a moment you are falling. For a moment you wonder if you made a terrible mistake. And then something opens. A new ground appears under your feet. A new river carries you forward. A new part of you wakes up and smiles. The courage was not waiting for the fear to leave. It was born in the moment you chose to move anyway. It was fueled by the very fear that tried to stop you. And in that moment, you learned something important. Fear will always be part of the journey. But it does not have to decide the destination. Sometimes fear will be loud. Sometimes it will be subtle. Sometimes it will whisper lies. Sometimes it will shout warnings. You do not have to silence it. You do not have to fight it. You only have to listen to it. Thank it for its concern, and choose your path with your heart leading the way. Fear is not your enemy. It is a map. It shows you where the edges of your comfort are. It points toward the places where your next growth waits. It tells you, here is where you are still alive enough to care. Here is where your spirit is calling you to be brave. The fear that fuels courage does not disappear after one leap. It visits again and again at every new threshold. It stands at every new beginning, every new dream, every new love, every new adventure. And every time it comes, it offers you a choice. Will you let it shrink you, or will you let it sharpen you? Courage is built choice by choice, step by step, breath by breath. It is not a single moment of bravery, but a lifetime of conversations with fear. Conversations where you say, I hear you, I feel you, and I am moving forward anyway. Imagine living a life not without fear, but beyond fear. A life where fear signals not to stop, but to pay attention. A life where fear is not a barrier, but a bridge. A life where every trembling step is a step deeper into who you are meant to become. That is the gift of fear when you learn to hold it properly. It becomes not the chain that binds you, but the fire that drives you. It becomes the proof that you are living, that you are reaching, that you are daring to write a story bigger than safety. And in the quiet moments when you look back at your life, you will not remember the times you stayed safe. You will remember the cliffs you stood upon, the leaps you dared to make, the moments you felt afraid and chose courage anyway. You will remember the fear that walked beside you, and you will smile, because you will know that fear was never your enemy. It was your companion. It was your teacher. It was the fire that lit the path of your becoming, the choice that was made for you. Picture a young boy standing at a crossroads. He looks left and he looks right. One path is wild and unknown, the trees thick and the light dim. The other is paved neatly, signposts marking every turn, the destination clear and bright. Before he can decide which way to go, a gentle hand rests on his shoulder and guides him firmly toward the paved road. "You will be safer this way," the voice says. "It is for your own good." The boy nods, trusting, and walks down the paved path without ever really making the decision himself. Years later he will wonder what was hidden in the woods he never entered, and whether the choice he thought was his was ever truly his at all. This is the silent story behind many lives. Choices that feel like they are ours, but were made for us long before we understood what choice even meant. Parents, teachers, cultures, systems, they all nudge and push and sometimes shove us down certain paths. They tell us what is right and what is wrong, what is success and what is failure, what is acceptable and what is shameful. And because we are young, because we seek belonging and safety, we listen, we obey, we follow. It begins subtly. A little girl who loves painting is told that art is a hobby, but not a career. She hears it once, then again, then 100 times until she herself starts believing it. She grows up and becomes a lawyer, successful by every external measure, but sometimes at night her hands still itch for the feel of a brush on canvas. She wonders why a part of her feels hollow. She wonders whose dream she is living. Or think of the boy who dreams of being a musician. His father laughs and says, "Real men do not waste time with instruments." The boy, wanting his father's pride more than anything, locks away his songs and learns to build houses instead. His life is solid, respectable, but somewhere deep inside, melodies still drift through his mind like ghosts. The most dangerous part of a choice that was made for you is that it can hide in your heart for years without you noticing. You may think you are chasing your own dreams, living your own life, until one day something cracks. A quiet question rises inside you. Did I choose this, or was I led here? Is this who I am, or who someone else needed me to be? Society does this on a massive scale. It tells us what success looks like, what beauty looks like, what happiness should feel like. It feeds us images and stories and expectations from the moment we are old enough to understand words. It draws invisible lines around what is possible and dares us to step outside them. Most do not even try. And the truth is, it is not always malicious. Often it comes from love. A parent wants their child to be safe, to have a stable future, to avoid the mistakes they made. A teacher wants their student to shine in ways the world will recognize. A culture wants its members to uphold its values and traditions. But even love can become a cage if it does not leave room for freedom. So how do you know if a choice was truly yours? The answer lies not in how it looks from the outside, but how it feels on the inside. Real choices come with a certain aliveness. Even if they are hard, even if they are scary, they feel honest. They feel like your soul is speaking. When a choice was made for you, there is often a deadness, a going through the motions, a subtle disconnection between your actions and your heart. Imagine waking up every day and feeling a quiet resistance inside you, a part of you dragging its feet, whispering that this is not it, that is a sign. Or imagine achieving something and finding that the triumph feels strangely empty. That too is a sign. The life that fits you because it was crafted by your own hands feels different from the life that fits you because you were squeezed into it. Breaking free from choices made for you is not easy. It can feel like betrayal. It can feel like failure. But in truth, it is an act of coming home to yourself. It starts with asking uncomfortable questions. What do I want, not what was I told to want? What do I love, not what earns the most approval? Who am I, beneath all the labels and expectations? Sometimes you will find that what you have chosen still matches what others wanted for you. That is okay. The key is that now it is truly your choice. You have reclaimed it. You walk your path with open eyes, not as someone sleepwalking down a road laid by others. And sometimes you will realize you have to change direction. That can be terrifying. It can mean leaving behind careers, relationships, identities that have defined you for years. It can mean facing the disapproval of those who once guided you. But it also means breathing new air, feeling the pulse of your own life again. There is a deep power in making your own choices, even small ones. Choosing what you read, what you wear, how you spend a Sunday morning. Each small act of conscious choice strengthens the muscles of freedom. Over time, those muscles grow strong enough to support even the biggest decisions. Picture that boy at the crossroads again, now grown. He stands once more between the paved road and the wild woods. This time, no hand guides him. This time, no voice whispers in his ear. He stands alone, listening to the quiet beating of his own heart. He steps toward the trees. The path is uncertain, the risks real, but for the first time in his life, he is truly choosing. And that choice, even if it leads to struggle, even if it leads to failure, is worth more than a lifetime of safe steps on someone else's road. When you realize that a choice was made for you, it is not a reason for shame. It is simply an invitation to pause, to question, to turn inward, and listen for the faint but steady voice that has always been yours. The voice that says, you are allowed to choose again. You are allowed to begin again. You are allowed to live a life that fits you like your own skin. And when you do, when you step onto the path you choose for yourself, no matter how uncertain, you will know a freedom that no paved road can offer. A freedom that was waiting for you all along. The voice that hides a stranger. Imagine sitting in a quiet room and hearing a familiar voice call your name. It sounds warm. It sounds comforting. It sounds like someone you have always known. But as the voice continues speaking, a strange feeling creeps in. The words sound right, but the heart behind them feels wrong. The tone is soft, but the meaning feels empty. You listen closer, trying to find the person you once trusted in that voice. But the more you listen, the more you realize something unsettling. The voice you hear is wearing a mask. Behind the familiar sound, a stranger is speaking. Voices have power. They carry emotion, intention, and memory. A voice can soothe or sting. It can welcome or warn. It can tell you who someone is without them saying much at all. But sometimes, a voice that should bring comfort starts to feel hollow. It starts to feel like a script being read rather than a truth being shared. And when that happens, it creates a deep and quiet kind of sadness. Because you realize you are not speaking to the person you thought you knew. You are speaking to a version of them that no longer matches the reality. Imagine a close friend you have known for years. You call them after a long time apart. They pick up the phone and say your name, and for a moment, you feel that old connection spark. But as the conversation unfolds, you notice small cracks. Their laughter sounds rehearsed. Their excitement feels forced. Their reassurances seem distant. They are saying all the right things, but the heart is missing. You realize the friend you remember is no longer fully there. A stranger is speaking through a voice you once trusted. Or think about a parent, a sibling, a lover, someone who once knew the shape of your soul without needing explanation. Over time, life changes them. Fear hardens them. Regret shapes them. Anger carves out pieces of who they used to be. When they speak now, it is not the voice of the person you once knew. It is the voice of someone shaped by pain, by walls built high around their heart. It is the voice of survival, not of love, and you feel the distance even as they stand right in front of you. The voice that hides a stranger teaches a heartbreaking truth: that people change, that relationships evolve, that time can turn familiar hands into distant echoes. Sometimes the change is slow and gentle, sometimes it is sudden and shocking. Either way, it leaves you standing in a space between memory and reality, unsure of how to bridge the gap. You might wonder how to trust again when voices you once leaned on no longer feel safe, how to open your heart when the people you love no longer sound like home. The answer is not to stop trusting altogether. It is to trust more wisely, to listen not just to the surface of words but to the soul behind them, to understand that a voice can be used to comfort or to deceive, to connect or to control. It is not the volume or the sweetness that matters. It is the alignment between the voice and the truth it carries. Sometimes, people do not even know they have become strangers to themselves. They speak from fear without realizing it. They wear masks so long they forget the shape of their real face. They perform kindness because it is expected, not because it rises naturally from the heart. And when you hear this in their voice, it does not mean they are evil. It means they are lost. It means they are hurting. It means they are surviving in the only way they know how. Recognizing the stranger behind the voice does not always mean you have to walk away. Sometimes it means you have to listen more deeply. Sometimes it means you have to hold space for them to find their way back. Other times it means you have to protect your own heart and accept that some connections cannot be repaired if only one person is trying. Imagine sitting again in that quiet room, hearing the familiar voice that now feels strange. This time, instead of reaching blindly for the past, you listen with new ears. You hear the fear tucked inside their words. You hear the loneliness hidden in their laughter. You hear the anger buried beneath their politeness, and you understand. You see the stranger not as an enemy, but as someone who has drifted from themselves. It is a painful thing to accept, that people you love can change in ways you cannot follow, that the voice you once trusted can become a mask for wounds you cannot heal. But it is also a freeing truth, because it reminds you that your worth is not tied to staying loyal to a version of someone who no longer exists. It reminds you that love does not mean ignoring the truth. It reminds you that real connection cannot be faked, no matter how sweet the sound. The voice that hides a stranger calls you to deeper honesty. It calls you to grieve what is lost, without clinging to what no longer serves you. It calls you to honor your memories, while living fully in the reality before you. It calls you to listen with compassion, but to walk with wisdom. You might wonder if you will ever hear that familiar voice again. Sometimes, yes. Sometimes people find their way back to themselves. Sometimes healing peels away the layers of pain and fear, and the true voice returns, stronger and more beautiful than before. But sometimes the voice remains distant. Sometimes the stranger stays. And you must find peace anyway. Imagine standing in that room and hearing a voice that feels wrong. You smile gently. You listen respectfully. You let the stranger speak without losing yourself. You carry the love you once shared like a quiet flame inside you, but you no longer demand that they be who they once were. You accept them as they are, or you let them go. Either way, you remain true to yourself. Because in the end, the voice that matters most is your own. The voice that whispers your worth when the world forgets. The voice that reminds you to love deeply, but not blindly. The voice that knows the difference between memories and reality. The voice that will always lead you home. The embrace that freezes. Imagine standing in a room where the air feels thick with emotion. Someone you love steps forward and wraps their arms around you. Their touch is warm, but something else is hidden beneath it. You sense it almost immediately. A stiffness, a tension, a quiet fear hiding behind the closeness. You are being held but not really seen. You are being touched but not really felt. The embrace is there, but it does not warm you. It freezes you instead. There are moments in life when what should be comforting ends up trapping. moments when what should feel safe instead makes you feel smaller. An embrace can mean many things. It can be a true connection, a merging of two hearts that trust each other. But sometimes it can be something else, a need to possess, a silent command to stay the same. A fear of losing control, dressed up as love. When we think of closeness, we think of safety, we think of belonging, we think of shared strength, and often it is exactly that. But closeness can also become a cage if it demands that you shrink yourself to fit someone else's comfort. It can become a prison when it says, "Stay here, do not change, do not outgrow me, do not become more than what I can hold." The embrace that freezes is not always offered with bad intentions. Sometimes it comes from fear. Fear of being left behind. Fear of losing someone who is growing in a direction you cannot follow. Fear of change that feels too fast, too unpredictable, too uncontrollable. And so, the arms tighten. Not to celebrate your wings, but to hold you in place. Imagine a young bird ready to fly. It stands at the edge of the nest, wings trembling with excitement and terror. Its parent, proud but afraid, wraps a wing around it and says, "Stay. Stay where it is safe. Stay where I can see you. Stay where you are small enough for me to protect." The embrace feels loving, but it is also heavy. It weighs down the spirit that longs to soar. In relationships, this happens more often than we like to admit. A partner who fears losing the bond when the other person changes. A friend who feels left behind when new dreams begin to grow. A parent who struggles to see their child become someone different than the little one they once held. It is hard to watch people we love change. It is hard to watch them move into spaces where we cannot follow easily. But real love does not freeze someone in place. Real love lets them grow, even if it means growing apart, even if it means facing our own loneliness and fear. The embrace that freezes often comes with sweet words. "I just want what is best for you. I am only trying to protect you. I love you so much." And often, those words are true. But beneath them can hide another message. Stay small. Stay predictable. Stay close enough that I do not have to face my own fears. It takes deep self-awareness to recognize when we are freezing someone with our love. It takes courage to loosen our grip when we would rather hold tighter. It takes humility to admit that sometimes our need to protect is really our need to control, and it takes equal strength to recognize when we are being frozen by someone else's fear. It takes bravery to say, "I love you, but I must grow. I care for you, but I must change. I am grateful for your love, but I cannot stay trapped in a version of myself that no longer fits." Imagine standing again in that room, feeling the embrace that both holds you and holds you back. This time, instead of stiffening, you breathe deeply. You place your hand gently on the person's back. You say softly, "I love you, but I must move forward." You step back, not with anger, not with cruelty, but with the quiet certainty that love which demands your smallness is not love that will sustain you. It is one of the hardest lessons in life. That sometimes people who love us most are not ready for the versions of us we are becoming. That sometimes we must love them enough to forgive their fear, but not enough to let their fear become our cage. And it is equally hard to face within ourselves the truth that if we really love someone, we must love their becoming. We must love the parts of them that change. We must love the part that grow beyond our reach. We must love, not by holding tightly, but by standing solidly in support as they take flight. The embrace that freezes can be softened, it can be healed, but only through truth. Only through conversations that are hard and honest. Only through the willingness to let go of the image we had of someone and embrace who they are becoming. Growth often feels like loss. Every new step forward means leaving something behind. Every transformation means the death of an old identity. Every real love must face this truth at some point. The choice is simple but not easy. Will you freeze the one you love to keep them close, or will you open your arms and watch them become who they were always meant to be? Imagine again the young bird at the edge of the nest. This time the parent does not pull it back. Instead, they nudge it gently forward. They whisper, "You are ready." They let the bird spread its wings, even though their heart aches. They watch as it lifts into the sky, wild and trembling and free. And though a part of them feels the sharp pain of loss, a deeper part feels the deep pride of love without possession. The embrace that frees rather than freezes is the embrace that says, "I love who you are and who you are becoming. I trust your wings even if they carry you far from me. I trust your journey even if I do not fully understand it." And in giving that kind of love, we give ourselves a gift too. We free ourselves from the heavy burden of needing others to stay the same for our comfort. We allow ourselves to grow too, to change, to become new versions of ourselves. Love is not meant to be a cage. It is meant to be the open sky. The place where we can rest, but also the place from which we can launch into the unknown. And when love is truly free, it does not weaken when the winds change. It grows stronger. It becomes something not tied to time or sameness, but something deeper, a trust, a celebration, a bond that bends but never breaks, because real love does not freeze. It frees. The memory that invents itself. Imagine sitting by a fire with old friends, telling stories of childhood adventures. Someone mentions a day at the lake, the laughter, the swim races, the moment someone fell out of a canoe. You smile and nod, feeling the memory stir inside you. But as they describe it, something odd happens. You cannot quite remember being there. Still, their words paint such a vivid picture that soon you see yourself in it. You can almost feel the cold splash of the water, hear the sound of laughter echoing over the waves. Later, you will tell this story as if you lived it. You will believe it because it feels so real. But deep down, somewhere quiet and hidden, the truth remains. You were never there. The memory invented itself. This is the strange and beautiful and sometimes dangerous nature of memory. We like to think of memory as a vault, a storage room where facts are kept safe and untouched. But memory is more like a living, breathing thing. It shifts, it stretches, it reshapes itself with every retelling, every reflection, every emotion that touches it. Memory is not a recording. It is a story we tell ourselves, over and over. And like all good stories, it changes with the telling. Small details fade or grow, new colors are added, certain feelings become bigger while others are brushed away. Over time, the story may drift so far from the original event that it becomes something entirely new. And yet, because we remember it, we trust it. Because we feel it, we believe it must be true. Picture a man who vividly remembers being humiliated in a classroom when he was a child. He can describe every painful moment, every sneer from his classmates, every cruel word from the teacher. But when he returns to that school, years later, and speaks to others who were there, he learns that the event never happened quite the way he thought. Maybe he stumbled over a word during a presentation, maybe a few kids giggled, but no great humiliation unfolded. His mind, trying to make sense of a small embarrassment, built a larger, more painful story around it. A memory invented itself. This happens because memory is not just a record of the past. It is a tool for making sense of the present. It is a way for the mind to explain why we feel the way we feel, why we believe what we believe, why we act the way we act. When our emotions are strong, the mind sometimes invents memories that match those emotions. If we feel shame, we remember being shamed, even if the actual event was much smaller or different than we recall. If we feel abandoned, we remember being left behind, even if we were not. This is not a flaw. It is part of how the mind protects and organizes itself. But it also means that not every memory can be trusted fully. And understanding this opens a door to great freedom. Think of relationships that have broken under the weight of old wounds. One person carries a memory of betrayal, replaying it again and again, until it grows bigger and heavier. They believe it with all their heart. But sometimes, if they truly look back, if they strip away the layers of pain and story, they find that what happened was different. Misunderstandings grow into betrayals. Simple mistakes harden into lifelong grudges. The memory invents itself to fit the pain. Or think of the times you have remembered yourself as weaker than you really were, or stronger, or braver, or more helpless. Memory bends to serve the story you need at the moment. It fills in gaps with guesses. It paints over cracks with imagination. It is less a photograph and more a canvas, repainted with every glance. This can be frightening to realize at first. If you cannot trust your own memories, what can you trust? But there is also a quiet power in this knowledge. If memory is a story, then you are not a prisoner of it. You are a storyteller. You can choose to see your past with fresh eyes. You can choose to revisit old wounds and ask, what really happened? You can soften the edges of pain, release the grip of guilt, reclaim parts of yourself that you thought were lost forever. Imagine a woman who believes she was always unwanted by her parents. Her memory is filled with moments of coldness, of distance, of feeling invisible. But one day she finds an old letter tucked away in a box, written by her mother when she was a baby. It is full of love and hope and dreams for the future. She realizes then that her memory, shaped by years of hurt, had edited out the moments of tenderness. It had built a story of abandonment because that story matched her loneliness. But the full truth was more complicated, and with that realization, something inside her begins to heal. Understanding the way memory invents itself invites you to live with more compassion, both for yourself and for others. When you recognize that someone else's memory of an event may not match yours, you can soften your grip on being right. You can listen more openly. You can accept that two people can walk through the same day and carry away two very different truths, and both can be real in their own way. It also invites you to be gentle with your past. You are not obligated to carry every old sorrow as if it were a stone carved in your chest. You can question it. You can explore it. You can choose which stories to honor and which to gently set down. Memory is a bridge between who you were and who you are becoming. It is not meant to be a cage. It is meant to be a guide. And like any guide, sometimes it needs correction, sometimes it needs forgiveness. Picture yourself sitting once more by that fire, listening to the stories that weave through your life. Some are bright and clear, some are tangled and dark, some may not be as true as they seem. That is okay. You are not the sum of your memories. You are the living, breathing person who holds them. You are the one who can choose which stories to carry forward and which to let drift away like smoke into the night sky. The memory that invents itself is not your enemy. It is your mind trying to make meaning. When you understand that, you can hold your memories more lightly. You can walk through your past without being trapped by it. You can honor what was true, forgive what was mistaken, and write the next chapter of your story with eyes wide open. The path that loops forever. Imagine walking down a long road surrounded by open fields. At first, the journey feels exciting. Every step forward brings something new. The sky changes color. The trees shift their shape. The air smells different as you move. You feel alive. You feel like you are getting somewhere. But after a while, a strange feeling creeps in. You see a tree that looks oddly familiar. You notice a bend in the road that you swear you have already passed. Doubt flickers in your mind, but you push it away and keep walking. Hours pass. Days, even. And finally, you realize the truth that was whispering to you all along. You are not moving forward. You are walking in a circle. The path has no destination. It only loops forever. There are moments in life when we feel this same sense of quiet despair. We work hard. We push forward. We do everything right. But somehow we find ourselves right back where we started. The same patterns, the same fears, the same mistakes wearing different faces. It feels like we are living on repeat, like no matter how far we think we have come, the past catches up with us and drags us back into the same old loops. The path that loops forever is not always a physical road. It is a way of living. It is a way of thinking. It is the relationships we keep choosing even though they hurt us. It is the habits we cannot seem to break. It is the lies we tell ourselves to feel safe. We convince ourselves that this time it will be different, that this time we are truly moving forward. But without deep change, without real awareness, we are only walking the same circle with new scenery. Imagine someone who dreams of finding true love. They date person after person, each time hoping this will be the one. But each relationship follows the same pattern, the same fights, the same doubts, the same endings. It is not because they are cursed, it is because they are walking the same inner path, carrying the same fears, repeating the same choices, expecting a new destination while never changing the road they are on. Or picture someone who struggles with self-worth. They chase achievement after achievement, thinking that the next success will finally make them feel enough. They graduate, they get promoted, they buy the house, they win the awards. But after the celebration fades, the same emptiness returns. They are running harder and faster, but they are not escaping the loop, because the real path they are walking is built on the belief that they must earn their worth, and until that belief changes, no amount of external success will set them free. The path that loops forever teaches a painful truth. Progress is not measured by motion. Progress is measured by transformation. You can walk 1,000 miles and never move an inch closer to the life you truly want if you are carrying the same wounds, the same fears, the same stories inside you. You might wonder, how do you break free? How do you step off the endless loop and find a road that actually leads somewhere new? The answer is not in running faster. It is not in pushing harder. It is in stopping completely, in standing still long enough to see the pattern clearly, in asking yourself the questions you have been too busy to face. What am I really chasing? What am I really afraid of? What old pain am I trying to outrun? What old belief am I still carrying like a stone in my pocket? Imagine sitting down in the middle of that looping road, letting the stillness wash over you, listening to the echoes of your own heart. At first, it feels unbearable. The need to move, to fix, to escape rises up like a wave. But if you sit long enough, the truth begins to speak. And when you hear it, really hear it, you realize you were never trapped by the road. You were trapped by the part of you that believed you had to keep walking even when you were lost. Freedom does not come from finding a better road. It comes from becoming a different traveler, from carrying a different map inside you, a map that is not drawn by fear or shame or old wounds, a map that is drawn by self-awareness, by courage, by love. Sometimes breaking the loop means making one small different choice, saying no where you always said yes, speaking the truth where you always stayed silent, reaching for help where you always tried to handle it alone. It does not have to be dramatic. It does not have to be perfect. It just has to be real. Other times, breaking the loop means facing the part of yourself you have been avoiding, the wounded child, the angry soul, the grieving heart. Sitting with your own brokenness without trying to fix it right away, letting it be seen, letting it breathe, because sometimes the loop is fueled by the parts of you that believe they must stay hidden to survive. Imagine standing up from the center of that looping path, but this time, instead of following the worn trail that curves endlessly into itself, you turn toward the unknown. You step off the beaten track. You walk into the wild, into the unmarked land, into the places you have never dared go before. It is frightening. It is lonely at times. But it is also the only way forward. The path that loops forever is a teacher. It shows you where you are still asleep. It shows you where you are still afraid. It shows you where you are still living yesterday instead of today. And once you see the loop clearly, Once you name it, you have already begun to break it. You might stumble, you might circle back a few more times before you find your footing. That is not failure. That is the process of waking up. That is the process of becoming someone who chooses their life instead of being dragged through it by invisible patterns. The next time you feel that strange sense of déjà vu, that sinking feeling that you have been here before, pause, look around, look within. Ask yourself, am I walking a new path, or am I just walking an old loop with new decorations? Because in the end, the real journey is not about reaching a new place. It is about becoming a new person. A person who walks with awareness, with courage, with an open heart. A person who knows that true freedom is not found by running faster, but by waking up to where you really are. The approval that controls. Imagine standing on a small stage. The lights are not too bright, but you can still feel every eye in the room focused on you. You clear your throat. You say your lines. You smile when they laugh. You adjust your tone when they frown. You watch them carefully, trying to read their reactions like a book. Every nod feels like a breath of air. Every frown feels like a small death. Without even noticing it, you begin to twist yourself into a shape that matches what they want to see. You are performing, but not for yourself. You are performing for their approval. And slowly, quietly, their approval begins to control you. It starts so simply, everyone wants to be liked. Everyone wants to be seen. Approval feels good. It feels like safety. It feels like belonging. When someone smiles at your words, when someone praises your actions, it feels like a soft hand pulling you closer to the warmth of the group. There is nothing wrong with enjoying approval. It is part of being human. But there is a quiet line that, once crossed, changes everything. The line is crossed when approval stops being a gift and becomes a need, when you start living not by your own compass, but by the reactions of others. When you start editing your dreams, your words, your choices, just to keep the applause going. When you trade your true self for a version of you that fits neatly into someone else's expectations, approval then becomes not just a comfort, but a leash, a silent tug that pulls you in directions you never meant to go, a gentle pressure that tells you what you can and cannot be. And because it is soft, because it comes wrapped in smiles and nods, it is easy to miss how deeply it is shaping you. Imagine a painter standing before a blank canvas. At first, they paint what moves them. Wild colors, strange shapes, honest emotions. But soon they notice that certain paintings get more praise, more sales, more smiles. So they start choosing their colors not for love, but for approval. They start painting what will be accepted, and slowly, the fire that once burned bright inside them dims. They are still painting, but the canvas no longer feels alive. The approval that controls often begins with love. Parents praising certain behaviors over others. Teachers rewarding certain answers more than others. Friends liking the parts of us that are easy and stepping away from the parts that are messy. Bit by bit, without malice, the message is sent. Be this, not that. Say this, not that. Dream this, not that. And because we are wired to belong, because we are wired to seek connection, we adjust. We learn to fit. We learn to perform. We learn to hide the parts of ourselves that might risk disapproval. And with every small hiding, we lose a little piece of our true selves. It is a slow process, a quiet erosion. Until one day you wake up and realize you are living a life that looks good on the outside, but feels hollow on the inside. You are surrounded by people who like you, but you wonder if they truly know you. You are praised for things that no longer feel like yours. You smile but wonder who you are smiling for. Breaking free from the approval that controls is not easy. It feels like standing naked in a cold wind. It feels like risking the very connection you have built your life around. It feels like walking away from applause into silence. But true belonging, true love, true success can only grow in the soil of authenticity. Anything else is a fragile house built on sand. It starts with small acts of courage. Speaking a truth even when you know it will not be popular. Making a choice that feels right even when it is not understood. Showing a part of yourself that you have hidden away because you thought it was too strange, too different, too much. At first, it feels terrifying. Every move feels like a threat to the safety approval once promised you. But slowly, something beautiful happens. You begin to feel solid inside yourself. You begin to feel proud not just of the image you present, but of the life you are truly living. You begin to draw people toward you who love the real you, not the mask you used to wear. Imagine standing again on that small stage. This time, you speak not to be liked, but to be true. You let the smiles come if they will. You let the frowns come if they must. You hold your ground. You tell your story the way it demands to be told, not the way you think they want to hear it. You walk off the stage knowing that you did not perform for approval. You lived for truth. Approval then becomes what it was always meant to be, a gift, not a need, a blessing, not a chain. When it comes, you accept it with gratitude. When it does not come, you remain whole. You do not twist. You do not shrink. You do not betray yourself for a hand clap that fades into silence. Living free from the control of approval does not mean rejecting love or community. It means building your life on a deeper foundation. It means trusting that the people who are meant for you will not need you to perform. They will not need you to shrink. They will not love the mask. They will love the face beneath it, and you, in turn, will love yourself more fiercely, not for being perfect, not for being accepted, but for being real. For being willing to risk loneliness for the sake of truth. For being willing to risk rejection for the sake of living fully awake. Imagine a world where approval is offered not as a condition, but as a celebration of authenticity. Imagine relationships where differences are not just tolerated, but cherished. Imagine communities where success is measured not by fitting in, but by showing up fully alive. It starts with one choice at a time, one truth spoken, one mask dropped. One step closer to the life you are meant to live. The approval that controls only has power if you give it power. Take it back. Stand firm. Speak true. Live free. Because the life that is truly yours is worth far more than any applause that demands you to be less than you are. The distance that suffocates. Picture two people sitting across from each other at a small kitchen table. Their hands are close enough to touch. Their eyes can easily meet if they lift their gaze. They are only inches apart, but between them stretches a space that feels endless. A space filled with unspoken words, with invisible walls, with the quiet weight of everything left unsaid. They are near in body but galaxies apart in heart. And in that distance, something sacred begins to suffocate. Distance is supposed to bring perspective. A little space can help wounds heal. A little silence can give thoughts room to breathe. But sometimes distance does not heal. Sometimes it hardens. Sometimes it grows so heavy that it crushes the very connection it was meant to protect. It becomes a wall too high to climb, a silence too loud to break. And two people who once knew each other's every breath become strangers who cannot find the words to start again. Imagine a relationship where fights once burned hot but ended with laughter and forgiveness. Over time, the fights grow colder. The words become sharper. The silences stretch longer. Until one day, there are no fights at all. Only polite conversations about the weather. Only careful exchanges about the tasks of living. The passion is gone. The anger is gone. Even the sadness has dimmed into numbness. They have drifted so far apart that even their pain cannot find each other. Or think about a friendship that was once filled with late-night talks and endless laughter. Slowly, life gets busy. Messages go unanswered. Plans get canceled. The bond thins like a thread pulled too tight. You tell yourself it is just a phase. You tell yourself you will reconnect soon. But the days turn into months. The thread snaps, and when you finally meet again, you realize you have both changed in ways the other can no longer recognize. The distance that suffocates teaches a quiet and terrible truth. That closeness is not measured in miles or minutes. It is measured in presence, in willingness, in the invisible threads of attention and care that bind hearts together. You can live under the same roof and feel oceans apart. You can hear someone's voice every day and still feel unbearably alone. You might wonder how distance can grow so big without anyone noticing. The answer is simple, but painful. It grows in the spaces where conversations are avoided. It grows in the moments when fear wins over honesty. It grows every time we choose silence over vulnerability, comfort over truth, pride over forgiveness. It does not happen all at once. It happens little by little, like sand slipping through fingers. At first, the distance feels manageable. You tell yourself it is just stress, just bad timing, just temporary. You tell yourself you will fix it when things calm down. But the longer the distance is left alone, the stronger it becomes. It learns to feed itself. It learns to settle into every empty space between you, until one day the distance is no longer just between you, it is inside you. Imagine realizing that the person you love is sitting right there, but you no longer know how to reach them. Every word feels like a risk. Every attempt at connection feels like throwing a rope across a canyon and hoping someone catches it. You laugh at the right moments, you nod at the right times, but inside you are gasping for air. Inside, you are mourning a closeness that still exists in memory, but no longer in reality. The hardest part about the distance that suffocates is that it rarely announces itself loudly. It rarely arrives with dramatic fights or sudden endings. It creeps in quietly, disguised as routine. It hides behind busy schedules and tired smiles. It convinces you that everything is fine because nothing is visibly broken, until you wake up one morning and realize you are living beside a stranger. Or worse, that you have become a stranger to yourself. So how do you fight against the distance before it takes over? How do you keep the threads of connection strong enough to withstand the slow erosion of life? The answer lies in small, stubborn acts of presence. In choosing to speak when silence feels safer. In choosing to ask the hard questions when it would be easier to look away. In choosing to show up again and again, even when you are tired, even when you are afraid, even when you are unsure if it will make a difference. It lies in understanding that real connection is messy. It is built not on perfect moments, but on honest ones. It is built by facing the discomfort, by leaning into the awkwardness, by refusing to let fear write the story for you. Imagine reaching across that kitchen table. Imagine taking the risk to say the words you have been holding back. Imagine breaking the silence with a truth so soft and so vulnerable that it shakes the walls the distance has built. Maybe the other person will meet you halfway. Maybe they will not. But either way, you will have chosen presence over absence. You will have chosen courage over comfort. You will have chosen love over fear. And even if the distance cannot be fully closed, even if the relationship changes forever, you will know that you did not let the silence win. You will know that you fought for connection, that you honored the sacredness of being known and knowing another. The distance that suffocates can only grow in the absence of tending, like a fire that dies when the wood is left to rot, like a garden that withers when the water stops flowing. Connection demands attention. It demands risk. It demands the bravery to keep reaching even when your hand comes back empty sometimes. The next time you feel the quiet chill of distance settling between you and someone you love, do not wait. Do not hope it will fix itself. Speak, reach, risk. Because every day you wait is another thread unraveling. Every silence you choose is another brick in the wall you never meant to build. Because in the end, it is not the storms that destroy connection. It is the slow drift. It is the quiet forgetting. It is the belief that love can survive without effort. Love can survive many things, but it cannot survive being ignored. The desire that destroys itself. Picture this. A man stands in front of a fountain in the middle of a wide garden. The water sparkles under the sun. The air smells sweet with flowers. He looks at the fountain with longing. He wants a drink more than anything else. His lips are dry. His throat burns. He steps closer. But the closer he gets, the faster the fountain seems to move away. He starts running toward it. The faster he runs, the more the fountain seems to fade into the distance. He stumbles. He grows tired. His desire, once a gentle wish, now becomes a burning need. And the more he needs, the further the fountain seems. His desire, instead of bringing him closer, pulls him farther away. This is the strange and silent trap hidden inside desire. We are taught that wanting something is the beginning of reaching it. That strong desire fuels effort. That longing is the first step to achievement, and in many ways, that is true. But there is a hidden side to desire, a side that is rarely spoken about, a side where the wanting itself becomes so desperate, so consuming, that it begins to destroy the very thing it reaches for. Desire is natural. It moves us forward. It sparks dreams. It lights fires inside our souls. But when desire becomes obsession, when wanting turns into needing, when the thing we seek becomes the only thing we think can make us whole, something strange happens. Instead of pulling life toward us, we push it away. Instead of moving toward peace, we run deeper into restlessness. Imagine planting a seed in the ground. You water it gently. You give it sunlight. You trust that it will grow. But what if, instead, you dig it up every hour to see if it has sprouted yet? What if you pour too much water, drown it with too much attention, smother it with too much urgency? The seed would not grow faster. It would die. Not from neglect, but from suffocation. The same thing happens with desire. When you want something too much, when you tell yourself that you cannot be happy without it, when you believe that your worth or your peace depends on getting it, you strangle your own joy. You poison the very soil from which good things could have grown. Desire that destroys itself often comes from fear. Fear of not being enough. Fear of being left behind. Fear of missing out. Fear that life will forget you if you do not grab it tightly enough. And so you cling, you chase, you force. You beg life to deliver your dreams on your schedule, on your terms. But life does not move by force. It moves by flow. It responds not to desperate grabbing, but to steady trust. It opens not to those who demand, but to those who prepare patiently. Imagine two archers standing side by side. One is tense. His hands shake. His breath is ragged. His mind screams, "I must hit the target or else." He fires too soon, missing wildly. The other archer is calm. His eyes are clear. He breathes deeply. He draws the bow with focus, but not with panic. He releases the arrow with trust, and it flies true. The difference is not in their skill. It is in their relationship to desire. One let desire become poison. The other kept it as pure energy. There is nothing wrong with wanting. There is nothing wrong with dreaming. But when your happiness becomes chained to outcomes you cannot control, you set yourself up for endless suffering. When you believe that only when you have this love, this success, this recognition, this goal, you will finally be whole, you hand your peace to the winds. True strength is not in not wanting. It is in wanting with open hands. It is in loving the journey more than the destination. It is in trusting that you are already enough, even before you reach the next milestone. Desire should be a song that lifts your spirit, not a chain that drags you down. It should inspire action but leave room for mystery. It should make you alive but not make you desperate. The deeper problem with desire that destroys itself is that it blinds you. It makes you see only one path, only one outcome, only one version of success. And when life offers you something different, something unexpected, you miss it. You reject it. You tell yourself it is not enough. You become deaf to the quiet gifts life tries to hand you because you are too busy demanding the gifts you imagined. Imagine a traveler so focused on reaching the top of a mountain that he misses the beautiful valleys, the hidden waterfalls, the peaceful clearings along the way. His eyes are locked on a peak he may never reach. His heart is locked away from the beauty that is already here. There is a quiet art to holding desire lightly, to saying, I hope for this, I work for this, I dream of this, but I remain open. I trust that life knows things I do not know. I trust that sometimes what I desire is not what I need. I trust that real peace is not at the finish line but in the steps I take today. The desire that destroys itself says, I cannot live without this. The desire that gives life says, I choose to live fully while moving toward this, but I remain free whether I reach it or not. Freedom is the key. Freedom from attachment. Freedom from the belief that your worth is tied to outcomes. Freedom from the lie that happiness is always somewhere else, just out of reach. Imagine walking through a garden. You admire the roses. You breathe in their scent. You enjoy their colors. But you do not clutch at them. You do not rip them from the earth. Out of fear they will disappear. You walk with open hands, trusting that beauty is all around you, not just in the things you can possess. Your dreams deserve your energy, your care, your passion, but they do not deserve to own your soul. You are more than your goals. You are more than your successes. You are a living, breathing miracle right now. Desire is beautiful when it inspires you. It is dangerous when it defines you. Let your desires be sails that catch the wind, not anchors that drown you. Let them guide you but not chain you. Let them bring you alive but not make you a prisoner. And when you live this way, something magical happens. The things you once chased with desperate hands begin to flow toward you, not because you forced them, but because you became ready to receive them. Not because you needed them to be whole, but because you chose to walk whole toward whatever life had to offer. The desire that destroys itself is built on fear. The desire that creates life is built on trust. Choose trust. Choose freedom. Choose to desire with open hands and an open heart, and watch how life, in its own mysterious timing, meets you with gifts far richer than you ever dared to imagine. The truth that shapes a lie. Imagine standing in front of a mirror that does not quite reflect you perfectly. It catches your outline, the shape of your face, the light in your eyes. But somewhere, the reflection bends. Just a little, not enough to notice at first. A small distortion here, a slight curve there. You look into that mirror day after day, believing you are seeing the full truth. Believing you are seeing yourself clearly, but over time, the tiny distortions add up. Until the image you trust is no longer real. Until the truth you believed in has shaped a lie so subtly that you can no longer tell the difference. Truth is supposed to be pure. It is supposed to be the foundation we stand on when everything else falls away. But truth is rarely as clean as we want it to be. A piece of truth, taken out of its full story, can become the seed of a powerful lie. A small fact, repeated often enough without its context, can become the armor that shields deception. A glimpse of reality, carefully framed, can create an illusion stronger than any outright falsehood. Imagine a person telling you they were once betrayed by someone they loved. That is true. Their pain is real. Their story is real. But if they leave out the parts where they too were careless, where they too built walls and sowed distrust, the truth becomes a weapon. It becomes a way to win sympathy while avoiding responsibility. It becomes a lie shaped by a truth. Or think of someone who tells you about a success they achieved. They describe the long hours, the sacrifices, the hurdles they overcame. All of that is true. But they leave out the moments of luck, the help they received, the shortcuts they took. The story becomes a monument to their perseverance alone. It inspires awe but hides reality. It is not a complete lie. It is a truth sharpened and polished into something that no longer tells the full story. The truth that shapes a lie teaches a complicated lesson, that honesty is not just about saying what is factually correct. It is about telling the whole story, even when the full story is messy, even when it shows your flaws, even when it makes you uncomfortable. Partial truths can be more dangerous than outright lies because they feel real. They taste real. They slip past our defenses because they carry the scent of authenticity. You might wonder how to protect yourself from the truths that hide lies, how to tell when a story you hear, or even a story you tell yourself, has twisted into something that feels good but hides something deeper. The answer is not cynicism. It is curiosity. It is the willingness to ask what is missing from this story, what is not being said, what context has been stripped away. It is the courage to hold space for complexity instead of rushing to easy judgments. Imagine listening to someone tell you about their struggles. You hear their pain, their anger, their loneliness. You feel compassion, but you also stay open enough to wonder what parts of the story are being left in the shadows. Not to doubt their experience, not to accuse, but to understand more fully. Because real connection is built not on perfect stories, but on whole stories. Stories that carry both the light and the dark. Stories that do not flatten the complexity of human life into neat narratives. And imagine listening to yourself, to the stories you tell about your own past, your own wounds, your own victories. Listen gently, but honestly. Notice where you might be using a piece of truth to hide from a deeper truth. Notice where you might be clinging to a version of the story that keeps you safe, but also keeps you stuck. It is not a failure to realize you have shaped your own truths into comforting lies. It is a part of being human. We all want to be seen in the best possible light. We all want our pain to be justified, our efforts to be recognized, our mistakes to be softened. But true growth happens when we stop polishing our stories and start sitting with their full weight. The truth that shapes a lie also reminds us how easily we can be deceived by appearances. How easy it is to mistake a polished surface for a solid foundation. How easy it is to believe what we want to believe. Especially when the lie carries a piece of the truth we already know. Think about the moments you have been most deeply betrayed. Often, it was not because you believed something wildly false. It was because you believed something that was almost true. Almost true is the most dangerous kind of falsehood, because it wraps itself in the familiar, because it feels safe, because it gives you just enough reality to make you stop questioning. But questioning is not an act of disloyalty. Questioning is an act of love. Love for the truth, love for your own clarity, love for the people and the world you move through. When you stay curious, when you stay open to complexity, you give yourself the gift of seeing things as they are, not as you wish they were. Imagine looking back into that imperfect mirror. This time, you see the bends and the curves. You see where the reflection distorts. You see where the truth has been shaped into something that does not quite match reality. And instead of looking away, you look closer. You trace the lines with your eyes. You let yourself see the beauty of imperfection, the necessity of complexity. You realize that the full truth is never simple. It is never clean. It is messy. It is complicated. It is full of contradictions. And that is what makes it real. That is what makes it worth seeking. The truth that shapes a lie can only hold power over you if you are afraid of complexity. If you demand that stories be simple, that heroes be pure, that pain be righteous, and victories be flawless. But when you embrace the messy, when you embrace the full weight of real life, no partial truth can trap you. No polished lie can blind you. The next time you hear a story that feels just a little too perfect, a little too clean, pause, breathe, ask what is missing, ask what is being smoothed over, ask where the other pieces of the story are hiding, and most importantly, do the same with yourself. Because the greatest freedom comes not from living inside polished truths, but from walking bravely into the full, complicated, beautiful reality of who you are and who you are becoming. The end that starts again. Imagine walking down a long path surrounded by trees. The sky is soft with the colors of sunset. You know the path is coming to an end. You can see it just ahead where the trees open into a wide, empty field. You feel a sadness rising in your chest. The path was beautiful. It was familiar. It felt like a part of you. You want to turn back. You want to stay where everything is known. But something inside you says, keep walking. Trust the ending. So you do. You step forward into the unknown. And just when you think it is over, just when you think you have reached the final step, you notice a new trail beginning at the edge of the field. A trail you could not see until you had the courage to walk through the ending. Life is filled with these moments. Moments when something dear to us ends. A relationship, a job, a dream we carried for years. A season of life that shaped who we are. Endings come with a deep weight. They bring grief. They bring fear. They bring the feeling of losing part of ourselves. But what we often do not see in the middle of the ending is that every ending carries a quiet beginning inside it. Every door that closes points us, if we have the strength to look, to a door that is just about to open. The end is never the end. It is simply the turning of the page. The pain of endings often comes from our clinging. We cling to what was because it feels safer than facing what could be. We cling to old identities, old loves, old dreams, because they are familiar. Even if they no longer fit us, even if they have quietly begun to shrink our spirit, they feel like home. And so we resist the end. We fight it. We deny it. We mourn it long before it has even fully arrived. But fighting the end only makes it harder. Holding on tightly to what is passing only increases our suffering. It is like trying to hold water in our hands by squeezing it. The tighter we grip, the faster it slips away. There is another way, a quieter way, a braver way. It is the way of trust. The trust that life knows rhythms we do not yet understand. The trust that what feels like a loss may be making space for something we could never have imagined while our hands were still full of the past. Imagine standing at the shoreline as the tide pulls back. You watch the water retreat, leaving the sand bare and wet. It feels like something precious is leaving you. But if you wait, if you trust, the water returns. It always returns. And often it brings new treasures with it. Shells, stones, pieces of the deep ocean that you could not have found in any other way. The same is true with the endings in our lives. When we let go with grace, when we allow the ending to be what it needs to be, we create space for the tide of life to bring us new beginnings, new chances, new versions of ourselves waiting to be lived. It is not wrong to grieve an ending. It is not wrong to feel lost for a while. Healing is not about rushing through grief. It is about letting grief do its quiet work, about letting it soften us, about letting it remind us of what mattered, about letting it prepare the soil for something new to grow. True courage is not in pretending we are not hurting. True courage is in feeling the loss fully and still choosing to believe that life is not finished with us yet, that there is more love, more beauty, more purpose waiting for us beyond the horizon we can see today. Imagine a tree in winter, bare branches reaching toward a gray sky. It looks dead, it looks forgotten, but deep inside, hidden beneath the surface, life is gathering strength. Roots are digging deeper, sap is flowing slowly. Preparation for a spring that cannot be seen but is already promised. Your soul knows this rhythm even when your mind forgets. It knows that endings are part of the great breathing of life. Inhale and exhale, rise and fall, bloom and decay. Not as mistakes, but as necessary steps in the dance of becoming. Every end you face is asking you a quiet question. Will you trust me? Will you believe that your story is not over? Will you open your hands and your heart to the mystery of what comes next? It is not always easy. Sometimes the end is brutal. Sometimes it rips away things you thought you could never live without. Sometimes it leaves you feeling hollow and directionless. But even then, even in the deepest loss, life is quietly at work planting seeds in the broken soil. You do not have to see the new beginning right away. You do not have to know the next path perfectly. You only have to stay open. You only have to keep breathing. You only have to take the next small step when you are ready. And slowly, without forcing, without rushing, the new path will begin to reveal itself. A new passion will stir. A new dream will call. A new love will touch your life. A new version of yourself will rise from the ashes of what you thought was your ending. Imagine walking through a forest after a fire. The trees are blackened. The ground is scarred. But look closer. Tiny green shoots push through the charred earth. New life beginning again. Stronger, wiser, more rooted because of what was lost. This is how your life works too. The end is never the end. It is only the next beginning wearing a different face. So when you find yourself standing at the end of something, do not rush to fill the silence. Do not panic. Do not judge yourself for feeling afraid. Just stand quietly. Breathe. Trust. The story is not over. It is only turning a page. And what comes next might just be more beautiful, more true, more full of life than anything you could have written before. Because the end that feels like loss is often the place where your real becoming begins. And one day you will look back and see it clearly. The end was not your fall. It was your flight. And that's it. Hope you're in peace. Just consider subscribing, because sleep matters. Just then, stress scatters and nothing else matters, right? Peace out.